Hello.
Hi,
Hi sir. How are you?
क्या हाल? All good,
बस
all
बढ़िया।
good, sir. So I
तो
thought यार it is a good time. बहुत सारे changes हो रहे हैं मार्केट में भी. इलेक्शन के ऊपर बहुत सारा हॉट डिस्कशन रहता है. इवन आरबीआई डिविडेंड की भी चर्चा हो रही थी. प्लस जो आपकी अर्निंग सीजन है, तो देर आर मेनी गुड कंपनीज कमिंग अप विद वेरी वेरी गुड सेट ऑफ रिजल्ट. और जो कंपनीज रिजल्ट के मामले में डिसअपॉइंट कर रही हैं, तो मार्केट इज अगेन बीटिंग डाउन दोज कंपनीज बैडली. तो आई थॉट कि एक हॉलिस्टिक डिस्कशन होना चाहिए. काफी टाइम हो गया, तो आई थॉट टू अरेंज दिस सेशन. सो अभी 1-2 मिनट वी अलाउ आवर ऑडियंस टू सेटल डाउन एंड देन वी स्टार्ट विद द डिस्कशन. और
जी
कैसे
सर।
हम अपने आप को पोजीशन कर रहे हैं, विल बी स्पीकिंग अबाउट दैट. एंड ऑब्वियसली दैट वुड बी शेयर्ड फ्रॉम एन एजुकेशनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, बिकॉज सबका अपना फ्रेमवर्क अलग होता है. आइडियाज लेने में कोई बुराई नहीं है, बट उसको कॉपी भी अगर आप करना चाहते हो, तो देर आर स्मार्ट वेज टू डू दैट. ब्लाइंडली मत करें. और वी
करेक्ट
विल
करेक्ट।
ऑलवेज एडवाइज इफ वी डिस्कस एनी कंपनी, तो वो किसी भी तरीके का बाय सेल और होल्ड रिकमेंडेशन नहीं है. आप
हाँ
ये
हाँ।
फेयरली अज्यूम कर सकते हैं कि हमारी बायस होगी उस कंपनी में, और आप
हम्म
उसी एंगल से उसको लेके चलें. तो रवि भाई, क्या ब्रॉडली आपको, मतलब मोटा माटी डिस्कशन को किक स्टार्ट करें, तो क्या अभी लग रहा है मार्केट का टेम्परेचर अभी?
सर, मार्केट का टेम्परेचर तो और वैसा ही है कि द ग्लास इज ऑलवेज हाफ एम्प्टी हाफ फुल. आप किधर से देख रहे हैं? अगर आप मोमेंटम पे फोकस्ड हैं तो कंपनीज आर पोस्टिंग गुड रिजल्ट्स. अ लॉट ऑफ देम हैव पोस्टेड गुड रिजल्ट एंड हेंस द मोमेंटम शुड कंटिन्यू. अगर आप वैल्यू की तरफ से देख रहे हैं तो a lot of sectors are still there, a lot of companies, sectors, सब sectors are still there जो जहां पे कोई traction नहीं रहा है, but then things on ground are evolving very good and fast. So वो फ्यूचर के लिए काफी अच्छा कर सकती हैं. तो it depends on how one is trying to gauge the market. Yes, there is like इंडिया का फेवरेट टाइम पास मैं बोलूंगा. हमारे डेमोक्रेसी का त्योहार चल रहा है एंड इट इज अप्रोचिंग टू इट्स एंड. सो a lot of excitement, a lot of guided optimism, or even scared skepticism is also there inside all of us actually. And बस यही है मेरे हिसाब से तो मार्केट का आउटलुक सर. दिस इज व्हाट आई मेक आउट ऑफ द
And
करंट
Ravi bhai,
सिनेरियो.
although I'm not sure कि how it happened in 2018 और 19 election, but जो अभी एनालिस्ट लोग भी, मतलब कि भाई इतनी सीट्स आएंगे तो मार्केट ऐसे रहने का अनुमान है, इससे कम आएंगी तो देर विल बी नी जर्क रिएक्शन. तो दोज काइंड ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स आर आल्सो फैसिनेटिंग. एंड आई टेल यू, देर आर मेनी गुड financial market practitioners who are like staying in some big states for a period of 10-20 days during this election, so as to like gauge the what we can temperature, or you can call the mind of people, like whom they are voting, and what could be the likely result of that. तो ये बहुत एक, मतलब अपने आप में एक अलग माहौल बन रहा है. ऑल्दो देखो, इलेक्शन पहले भी हुए हैं, आते हैं जाते हैं, कंपनी जीतेगी, कुछ दिन की डिसअपॉइंटमेंट या यूफोरिया रहता है,
करेक्ट
बट
करेक्ट करेक्ट.
इस लेवल का मतलब आज ही देखा है.
नहीं सर, तो इसमें ना बहुत सारा एक एस्पेक्ट आपका मीडिया एज एन इंडस्ट्री एज अ सेक्टर. एंड मैं तो ये भी बोलूंगा कि एंटरटेनमेंट का भी काफी एंगल रहता है. बिकॉज द वेरी रैशनल कॉमन मैन ऑन द ग्राउंड, वो इस बहुत स्टार्क स्टार्क में बहुत हार्ड रियलिटी में यकीन रखता है कि इलेक्शन का रिजल्ट कुछ भी हो, कंट्री, सोसाइटी, इकोनॉमी आगे पुश करते रहती है. ओके, सो वो उस चीज को मानते हैं. तो एंड दैट इज वाई मतलब अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट बीइंग एक्सट्रीमली सीरियस एक्सरसाइज ऑफ डिसाइडिंग हु शैल एक्सरसाइज द अथॉरिटी एंड गिव शेप टू द विल ऑफ द पीपल, इसमें काफी बड़ा एस्पेक्ट मीडिया एंड एंटरटेनमेंट का भी रहता है. बिकॉज 24/7 कवरेज चाहिए होती है. पीपल आर ऑल्सो वेरी एक्साइटेड जानने के लिए, समझने के लिए क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है. आप देखो अगर तो देर इज this entire new phenomena of political analyst और पोल प्लानर्स आप बोल लीजिए उनको, वो जो हमने 2014 वगैरह के इलेक्शन से देखा है उन चीजों को, तो देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ, मतलब दैट इज वाई मैं इसको पॉजिटिव वे में देखता हूँ काफी, लाइक देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ एक्साइटमेंट अराउंड दिस पर्टिकुलर इवेंट, एंड हेंस लाइक वी सी वॉट एवर वी आर सीइंग.
राइट रवि। एंड रवि आई मीन देखो, इलेक्शन इम्प्रूव मतलब जो इसमें बर्निंग एक एस्पेक्ट है जिसपे बहुत सारा डिस्कशन हो रहा है, उसमें यही है कि ऑपोजिशन में कोई ऐसा चेहरा नहीं है कि जिसपे एक एक फोकस ऐसे किया जाए कि ही इज कंटेस्टिंग द प्रेजेंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर एज अ फेस ऑफ एनी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, राइट।
यस.
सेकेंडली सेकेंडली देखो, एंटी इनकम्बेंसी इज वन फैक्टर कि जो लोकल लेवल पे जो एमपीज होते हैं उनसे लोगों को रहता है कि यार हमारे एरिया का डेवलपमेंट नहीं हुआ है।
करेक्ट.
डेफिनेटली अक्रॉस अक्रॉस द बोर्ड ये सिचुएशन रहती है कि यार हम इसको वोट क्यों दे। बट उसके बाद एक ब्रॉडर पिक्चर ये आती है कि यार हमें सेंटर में स्टेबल गवर्नमेंट चाहिए, या अगर कोई चेहरा नहीं है और लग रहा है कि भाई even if the present phase is not up to mark on their expectations, क्योंकि यार इतनी बड़ी population है, not everybody would be satisfied on all the fronts, right। किसी को ये फोकस रहता है मेरी गवर्नमेंट जॉब नहीं लगी, किसी को रहता है कि अपना धंधा जीएसटी से चौपट हो गया, एंड देर इज अगेन अ क्लास उनको लगता है कि यार बाकी लेवल पे बहुत सारा एम्प्लॉयमेंट आया है, या फिर आप बोल सकते हो कि जीएसटी से उनकी चीजें इजी हो गई है कि भाई कच्चे में परेशान होते थे, जीएसटी में अपना टैक्स पे किया और आराम से सोते। सो देर देर इज ऑलवेज टू साइड्स टू दैट, राइट। और उसमें जो मोटा माटी रुझान आ रहा है, तो जो ब्रॉडर फैक्टर है दैट इज मोदी और एंटी मोदी। तीसरा फैक्टर मुझे इस इलेक्शन में लग नहीं रहा है, राइट। तो वो देखना बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, और जिस हिसाब से द फेजेस आर टर्निंग आउट, तो काफी
देखिए
अभी
सर,
एफ आई सर ये एफआई की बाइंग का 2 दिन से एफआई की बाइंग आ रही है, तो उसको कैसे रीड करें।
ये दो तीन चीजें हैं सर. अगेन आई एम नॉट अ पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट और एन एक्सपर्ट, बट फिर भी जो मैं सोचता हूँ और वही मैं शेयर कर देता हूँ सर यहाँ पे. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, दिस एंटायर हुलाबो अराउंड, लाइक व्हेन एफआईआईज वर सेलिंग, is slightly misplaced, that they are selling based on some political event risk. ठीक है, उनके ऊपर काफी स्ट्रांग बर्डन है रिडेम्पशन का, बिकॉज जिन कंट्री से वो पैसे आ रहे हैं वहां पे इन्फ्लेशन काफी सब्सटैंशियली हाई है उनके हिस्टोरिकल एवरेजेस से. एट द सेम टाइम द सेंट्रल बैंक्स देयर आर हेल बेंट ऑन रिड्यूसिंग नंबर ऑफ जॉब्स बीइंग क्रिएटेड. तो एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ विच जो भी पास सेविंग या इन्वेस्टमेंट है उनके ऊपर रिडेम्पशन प्रेशर हाई हो जाता है सर. ओके, सो वो एक एक्सेप्ट करना होगा. इट इज नॉट जस्ट द पॉलिटिकल इवेंट रिस्क हियर इन इंडिया राइट नाउ विच इज द ओनली सोल डिसाइडिंग फैक्टर. द नेचुरल कोर्स भी रहता है रिडेम्पशंस का. फर्स्ट. सेकंड क्या है कि यस देर आर अदर रीजंस ऑल्सो, अदर नियर बाई मार्केट्स और इकोनॉमीज आप कह सकते हैं, they are appearing way more lucrative in terms of like valuation comfort which they are offering. But then those markets have their own set of risks also, so that also needs to be looked into perspective. And third, yes, it is but obvious that like foreign institutional investors का जो benchmark रहता है रिटर्न्स का, अप्रोच स्टाइल या इवन मैंडेट जो रहता है सर, दैट इज वेरी डिफरेंट. Okay, and hence they can book out for the sake of avoiding any kind of political event risk. So it is not just that like one factor is overweighing the other. It is for our own convenience that we do not see as do not see things as they are on ground, but we tend to see things as they are in our head. अगर मार्केट गिर रहा है तो मोदी हारने वाला है. अभी मार्केट हिस्टोरिकल हाई पे बंद हुआ है तो 545 सीटें मोदी को ही आने वाली हैं. सो अगेन somebody who I mean, even I am emotional, like an emotional human being, and I have all the right to go emotional or go wrong. But I try, and I actually try to be as rational or be as objective as possible with things to the extent possible. तो मेरे हिसाब से there are multitude of factors which are going in. uh, we cannot give importance to one factor or the other. As far as जो आपने बोला like face and non face वाली,
रवि भाई लॉस्ट योर वॉइस, नॉट श्योर इट इज विद मी और एवरीबडी।
हेलो.
हाँ अभी बेटर है।
हाँ सर, so I was saying with that face wala point which you pointed out. So in my opinion, like again, this anti-incumbency thing is always real for any leader or political party you talk about, because जो like the one who is doing, उसी में आप कमी निकाल सकते हो कि खराब किया, अच्छा किया या क्या किया, नहीं किया। जो कर ही नहीं रहा है, जो अपोजिशन में है अभी, वो तो इम्यून है उस चीज से। तो दिस थिंग इज देयर, पहला। सेकंड क्या है कि विजाविस आवर द करंट लीडर, आई थिंक हिज बिगेस्ट चैलेंजर इज हिमसेल्फ, he himself, because the kind of expectations he has set in for regarding delivery, regarding policy planning, everything, uh, he comes out as someone who is committed to delivering. In one of the news articles I was reading, one single word which describes his agenda or his style of working is, he's a delivery guy. He is not a guy who's focused on cutting ribbons and all. He has delivered. Like जो भी आप अगर, doesn't matter where you stand on the political spectrum, if you see their manifesto, he has tried ticking every possible box. वो टॉपिक कितना भी कंट्रोवर्शियल क्यों ना हो, जो वादा करके वो आए थे वो वही उसी में डायरेक्शन में जाते रहते हैं। बट देन अगेन जनता के अपने अपॉइंटमेंट डिसअपॉइंटमेंट्स रहेंगे ही रहेंगे, बिकॉज दे आर इन पावर राइट नाउ। सो वो चीज है। एंड लास्टली अगेन इस टॉपिक पे जब हैं हम लोग, तो इन माय ओपिनियन, मैंने पहले भी बोला है कि दिस व्यू दैट कम व्हाट मे, whomsoever is in power, India will continue to grow. It's a wishful thinking, because there is a very strong correlation between the political elite and the the like capital elite in any society. आप पास्ट के एग्जांपल्स देख लीजिए। ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी का इक्विटी कैपिटल वाज पेड बाय द देन क्वीन ऑफ इंग्लैंड। वास्को डिगामा के शिप का जो खर्चा है, वहां के पोर्चुगल का जो प्रिंस था, उसका निकनेम ही था एक्सप्लोरर, उसी के नाम पे उस शिप का भी नाम द एक्सप्लोरर रखा गया था। इवन यूएस में मेजॉरिटी देयर टाइटन ग्रेड कंपनीज, देयर लॉकहीड मार्टिन एंड ऑल, उनका सबसे बड़ा सेल्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव यूएस प्रेसिडेंट ही होते हैं, बिकॉज दे वर्क अंडर B2G मॉडल। सो ये तो मिसप्लेस है कि इवन इफ देर इज समथिंग कोई there is a regime change or there is some surprise, it won't affect the markets at all, and it will be India की, see, India के लिए growth and development is an existential requirement. It is not a entitlement. One needs to understand, India and Indian people will have to work very hard to fulfill that or achieve that existential requirement.
सर वॉइस इश्यू अगेन।
हेलो सर, मेरे एंड पे तो आपकी वॉइस बराबर आ रही है सर।
राइट अभी आपकी भी आ रही है, वो कुछ सेकंड्स के लिए हट गई थी।
ओके, हाँ, सो दैट व्हाट आई एम एम्फेसाइजिंग सर, कि इंडिया के लिए जो ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट का जो टारगेट है ना, वो एक एग्जिस्टेंशियल रिक्वायरमेंट है। इट इज नॉट दैट वी आर एंटाइटल्ड टू दैट ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट, एंड हेंस आप यू ऑल्सो कम अक्रॉस देर आर पीपल हु से कि कोई भी इलेक्शन जीते इंडिया ग्रो करता रहेगा, इंडिया आगे बढ़ता रहेगा। भाई, हमारी आबादी 2% से बढ़ती है, 2% से तो हम बढ़ ही जाएंगे। इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट कि टू उसको 2% से आप 12% कैसे पहुंचा सकते हो, और टाइम टाइम फैक्टर भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है। सो ये सारी चीजें हैं जो कि आर द डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव्स इफ वी आर टॉकिंग विथ रिगार्ड टू द पॉलिटिकल इवेंट जो अभी हम लोग जिसको विटनेस कर रहे हैं। तो हाँ,
एंड इवन रवि भाई, अगर किसी हम कंपनी की बात करते हैं तो उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर ये रहता है, इफ सम वेरी गुड फेस इज देयर इन द मैनेजमेंट, और मान लो वो एजेड हो जाते हैं और ही और शी इज थिंकिंग ऑफ रिटायरमेंट, तो देयर वुड बी हाई सेंस ऑफ अनसर्टिनिटी कि इनकी रिप्लेसमेंट या वो क्या इनका मतलब ट्रांजिशन प्लान है कि इनकी जगह कौन आएगा, सेम लेवल ऑफ एथिक्स और यू कैन से द एक्सपीरियंस उससे रन कर पाएगा,
डेफिनेटली सर,
कंपनी
एंड
कर
यू
पाएगा
आर
वो लाइफ।
टॉकिंग, यू आर, आपने कंपनी का एग्जांपल दिया, यहाँ पे यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट 28% ऑफ द जीडीपी। गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली अभी भी 28% ऑफ द जीडीपी को टच करती है सर। सो अगेन, टेकिंग योर आर्ग्यूमेंट ओनली, इन दैट सिनेरियो दिस थिंग बिकम्स इवन मोर क्रिटिकल। सो लेट अस सी हाउ इट पैन्स आउट टू बी। Let us see. हाँ, please sir, carry on.
एंड सर ये आरबीआई के डिविडेंड का इतना हाइप क्यों बना रहा है? ये तो कंसिस्टेंटली आता रहता है। कुछ ऐसा है कि कुछ न्यूएंसेस हम मिस कर रहे हैं, और इट इज जस्ट टू शो कि पीएसयू कंपनीज ने बहुत अच्छा किया है?
No, no, no. See, like, again, I have a very different perspective on that because मैं time में थोड़ा पीछे जाना चाहूंगा. See, when, Raghuram Rajan was not given a second term and deputy governor थे तभी उर्जित पटेल जी demonetization वगैरह के टाइम के साथ उनको elevate किया गया था and then later on when you might be knowing sir कि majority of past RBI governors have been from IAS cadre. ओके एंड लाइक काफी ज्यादा क्रिटिसिज्म भी रहा है आरबीआई का एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का कि बाबूस जो रहते हैं उनको जो कि स्पेशलिस्ट नहीं है इन दिस डोमेन में उनको ला करके आरबीआई के ऊपर थोप दिया जाता है एंड एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ विच जो इंडिया की सेंट्रल बैंक की जो पॉलिसीज रहती हैं दे आर स्लाइटली आउट ऑफ प्लेस. अब वो कैसे रहती है ओनली गॉड नोज बिकॉज राइट फ्रॉम द एशियन करेंसी क्राइसिस टू लाइक आपका 2008-9 का फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस वगैरह इंडियन सेंट्रल बैंक एज वेल एज इंडिया बैंकिंग सेक्टर हैज फेयर्ड वेरी स्ट्रांगली through that and when Mr. Raghuram Rajan or was not given the second term as बहुत सारे लोग expect करते थे it was made out that it is a regressive step and then जो अभी current हमारे शशिकांता दास हैं he is not finance और proper economic के नहीं है उनका academic background वगैरह तो lot of criticism was there. But then it again, the current performance of RBI and especially we need to look at that performance vis-a-vis, the performance of other central banks like आपका अमेरिका का हुआ, बैंक ऑफ इंग्लैंड का हुआ. They are struggling, they are reeling under the pressure of, maintaining their current balance sheet. Because जो उन्होंने आज काफी अच्छा आर्टिकल भी है हिंदू बिजनेस लाइन में बाई नाउ पे लेटर एक प्रोडक्ट होता है सर. So they have compared, what central banks in other countries have practiced with, print now, pay later. And now when interest rates have gone up, that pay later wala period आया हुआ है. RBI, which cautiously followed a very pragmatic approach, where they didn't flush in, the entire economy with liquidity, they are reaping, the benefits of that policy. And they did face criticism in the past of, having unnecessarily, hawkish approach, not providing, the much needed very low interest rate environment in the Indian economy. But yes, as in any policy matter, there are choices to be made. And fortunately, right now we see that we stuck with the right choices and hence they are paying dividends.
रवि भाई, अभी थोड़ा स्टॉक्स और सेक्टर्स के बारे में चर्चा करते हैं. तो क्या टेलीकॉम सेक्टर अगर आप कवर कर रहे हो तो गोइंग फॉरवर्ड क्या लग रहा है पोस्ट इलेक्शन? आर वी गोइंग टू सी सम काइंड ऑफ ट्रैक्शन इन दैट सेक्टर? कुछ डेवलपमेंट्स, एनी कंपनी और ट्रैकिंग इन दैट?
Sir, at least again, since it's a sector which touches, everyday life of the common man, as well as इसमें government regulation का भी बहुत बड़ा हाथ रहता है. So, at least what we can make out right now is that the government is clearly decided that it will not allow the sector to be an oligopoly. ओके एंड दैट इज वाई एक जो प्लेयर है जो कि आईसीयू में एडमिट है उसको भी जिंदा रखा जा रहा है एंड जो इवन जो पीएसयू प्लेयर है उसको भी रिवैम्प किया जा रहा है. एंड इफ एज फार एज ट्रैक्शन गोज इफ यू लुक एट द वेरियस प्लेयर्स इन द सेक्टर द प्राइस मूवमेंट इज टेलिंग यू समथिंग both on the side of the infrastructure side of telecom as well as the service provider side of telecom. So yes, this is one sector which needs to be looked into going forward. But again, this is a sector where technological changes are extremely capital intensive and very frequent. So one needs to look at the sector from that perspective also before jumping onto the ship.
Fair point, Ravi. And I'm also hearing about a lot of chatter of textile sector and the cotton especially. So, have you got a chance to go through the developments in that sector, and if there are any triggers which can be looked at?
So, there are several triggers are yet to play out for this particular sector, but then lot of anti-triggers have eased out for this sector. Cotton prices have eased down. Then, I mean, it is expected that the delay in conclusion of several FTAs will be finally over once India is done with the elections. So that is also one thing. Then further, lot of companies are operating at barely 30, 40, or maybe 50% of their operating capacity. So there, that operating leverage is there waiting to play out. And yes, definitely, Prince Bhai, it is one of the sectors, if you see that it hasn't had its run in past good 3, 4 years, first, barring one or two exceptions. And second, it is one of the sectors which will definitely get government's attention, because if you closely look at the current narrative in the current elections, is the opposition is very strongly targeting the government of the day on the name of unemployment, rising inequality, and inflation. You can say inflation chhod bhi do, but unemployment and rising inequality. And hence I am pretty sure that once the government is in place after the elections, then the government will definitely put a lot of focus on income redistribution. Wealth redistribution is a very different thing, but income redistribution towards sectors which have very high employment elasticity. Okay, that is see, semiconductors, if they come,
Ravi, lost you.
sir.
Yeah, better now.
Okay, okay. I think whenever my mobile goes to sleep, there is some issue with the audio. So, I was saying, sir, this particular sector, textile and all, it has a very high employment elasticity as compared to many other sectors like semiconductors, electronics, वगैरह, if you compare. And hence, the result, as a result of which, I'm pretty sure that the government will also be focusing on this sector very strongly. So yes, one can look at it.
100% आई बिलीव दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट टू मेक कि जिस सेक्टर में जहाँ पे ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं कि गवर्नमेंट फोकस करके ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे सके तो डेफिनेटली दैट वुड बी वन पुश एरिया फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट. सो डिफेंस का दो सिनारियो लेके चलते हैं रवि भाई. लाइक द प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट रिपीट्स और अगर मान लो चेंज होता है तो डिफेंस एज अ सेक्टर आप क्या देखते हो इन बोथ द सिनारियोज? व्हाट्स योर assumption?
So let's go with the grimmer scenario first. So obviously, if government change is there, there will be lot of knee-jerk reaction and there will be lot of uncertainty. Okay, but then as it has been always that any government is in a way bound to work in a manner which is to a very fair extent extension of the policies and orders which the previous government has taken. There have been very rare instances anywhere in the world where there is a complete 180-degree turn or 90-degree deviation from the previous policy matters. If India has decided that they will go for a focused approach on defense import substitution, which will be further extended into very strong defense export orientation, I don't think that there will be any change. But again, this event risk, and if it plays out onto the negative side, it will be definitely because defense companies have had a very strong run based on the path which the government has delineated. And again, if there is a change in government, there will be a feeling of uncertainty, and hence we can see a very strong correction. But as far as policy matter goes, I don't think that one can do any change, significant change in that, because a lot of work has been already done, a lot of effort has been put into already.
100%. Then definitely we are talking of a scenario in which we believe कि अगर opposition भी आता है तो वो full majority से है. और if there would be some mix of government in the sense कि जोड़ तोड़ की सरकार in those scenarios we have seen in the past
Yes, you
कि
are spot on, sir.
बहुत
Actually, India में the real political risk is not this camp or that camp. Okay, the real political risk is always with like no camp slash any camp. For example, if you remember, in 92, PV Narasimha Rao government, even though it was a minority government, the government was able to push ahead with one of the most drastical dose of reforms, because lump sum way mein the government had complete majority. Okay, but after that, like a period of 4 years, India, a country as big as India and a country which needs as strongly and acutely to focus on growth and development, was busy playing election. In 4 years, we had 3 general elections. You can imagine, like, kya policy, kya execution, everything was up for toss. So, like, you are right. In my opinion also, the real worst case scenario is not this camp or that camp. The real worst case scenario is that, there is any or no camp at the helm.
राइट। तो रवि भाई, बिफोर टेकिंग द डिस्कशन टू अदर सेक्टर, एक सेक्टर है जिसके बिना काम भी नहीं चलता है बट वो अभी अच्छा नहीं कर रहा, आईटी सेक्टर। तो उसमें क्या लग रहा है कि एक कॉन्ट्रेरियन बैट अभी ली जा सकती है और वी नीड टू वेट एंड सी कि कब वहां पे अच्छे ऑर्डर्स दोबारा से आ रहे हैं? और स्पेशली बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंस में हमने देखा कि काफी जो मेजर पोर्शन रहता है कंपनीज के रेवेन्यू का, वहां पे इतना अपटिक नहीं है। तो कैसे कैसे देख रहे हो? और लाइक द मोर फोकस इज ऑब्वियसली टुवर्ड्स द कंपनीज व्हिच आर इनटू प्रोडक्ट्स रादर देन गिविंग सर्विसेज, राइट?
Yes, sir. So, in my opinion, sir, again, as things are, going ahead on ground, IT is gradually emerging as a, pocket of value. क्योंकि अगेन, अगर आप आईटी कंपनीज को, चाहे आप साइज से सेगमेंटाइज करें या उनके काम के अप्रोच से सेगमेंटाइज करें, आप हर तरफ एक वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन का केस बन रहा है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द पोस्टर बॉयज इन्फोसिस हुआ या फिर टीसीएस हुआ, द थिंग इज दैट दे आर सो मच फ्लश विथ कैश दैट दे आर वेरी वेल सूटेड फॉर एनी काइंड ऑफ चेंज अडॉप्ट करने के लिए। एंड वहां पे वो जो लाइक अपने सजल सर कई बार पॉइंट आउट करते हैं, वो लिंडी इफेक्ट, द बिगर गोज बिगर वगैरह वाली चीजें वो होती रहेंगी सर। देन देर आर जो मिडिल टीयर कंपनीज हैं जो कि कोई भी नया वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन अपनी सर्विसेज में लेके आ रही है सर। उसमें एक पूरा एक एरे है कंपनीज का, यू माइट बी नोइंग सोनाटा वगैरह सब कंपनियां हैं जो कि दोज हु आर वेरी वेल प्लेस्ड। आप ओरियन प्रो का एग्जांपल देखिए, इस पूरे पीरियड में जब लाइक आईटी हैज बीन स्ट्रगलिंग, द कंपनी हैज वर्चुअली री इन्वेंटेड इटसेल्फ। So we will have to look at it case to case. Then there are so many players, emerging players, I would say, I do not know to what extent नाम लेना सही रहेगा, but still I take few names, जैसे onwards tech हुआ, ठीक है। Then there are दो और कंपनियों के नाम थे मेरे दिमाग में भी स्लिप कर रहे हैं, but these companies are very specifically focusing on developing their capabilities, and उसके रिजल्ट्स आपको 2-3 years डाउन द लाइन मिलेंगे। तो आप जैसे साइन डीएलएम पे देख लीजिए आप, ये दीज कंपनीज आर देयर, दोज हु आर पुशिंग अहेड इन देयर ओन डोमेन। आप केपीआईटी का एग्जांपल ले लीजिए सर, जब पूरा डोमेन स्ट्रगल कर रहा, दिस कंपनी वाज एबल टू मतलब क्या वो क्रिकेट में बोलते हैं ना, वो कार्लोस ब्रैथवाइट टाइप, लाइक रिमेम्बर द नेम, वैसा वो एहसास करा इस कंपनी ने। तो वन विल हैव टू बी केस स्पेसिफिक वे में अप्रोच करना पड़ेगा। बट ओवरऑल वर्टिकल पे देखा अगर, तो डेफिनेटली आईटी एज अ, इट्स अ लाइक, आई डू नॉट नो उसको एक वर्टिकल बोलना सही भी रहेगा कि नहीं, but IT is definitely getting cleaned up of lot of froth which has come into the vertical, and I think one should be very vigilant to identify good pockets of opportunities there.
एंड सर, एक पॉकेट जिसमें बिल्कुल कंसेंसस है, कोई डाउट ही नहीं है कि उनकी हिस्टोरिकल वैल्यूज, जो वैल्यूएशन उनको पास्ट में मिली है उनके कंपैरिजन में अभी बहुत वेल प्लेस्ड है, लेकिन क्योंकि वहां पे मोमेंटम नहीं है और वन थिंग इज लाइक उनका जो साइज है वो कितना मोमेंटम सपोर्ट करेगा नहीं करेगा वो भी एक क्वेश्चन है। तो प्राइवेट बैंक्स की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, तो वहां पे अक्रॉस द पॉकेट बहुत अच्छे नाम हैं जिनमें वैल्यू दिख रही है, बट फिर भी वहां पे अभी इतना मतलब मोमेंटम नहीं आ रहा है। व्हाट कुड बी द पॉसिबल रीजन? और मैं अगर इस चीज को एफआईआई बाइंग से रिलेट करूं, इफ द गश ऑफ मनी वुड अगेन बी कमिंग फ्रॉम एफआईआई, so can we believe that would be the first pocket to get benefit of that?
सर तो अब देखिए बात जहां तक लैक ऑफ मोमेंटम इन बिग प्राइवेट बैंक्स की करें अगर हम, तो अगेन एक्सिस आईसीआईसीआई इन द सेंस दे हैव शोन वेरी गुड मोमेंटम बिकॉज दे वर एबल टू इम्प्रूव देयर नंबर्स एंड मेट्रिक्स. I think the main problem comes with the poster boys, that is HDFC and Kotak. And again, exact reason क्यों क्या कैसे रहता है, one can create reasons, make reasons just to pacify themselves, that is अभी merger हुआ है या फिर KMP का exit हुआ है, ये सब चीजें हैं. But in my limited opinion, these are just reasons. अभी अगर शेयर परफॉर्म कर रहा होता, HDFC 2,500 पे होता, तो यही मर्जर बहुत सुहावना हो जाता है. फिर आज के बाद, आज से 5 years down the line, if HDFC goes let us say 2x from here, ओके, तो यही मर्जर सिनर्जी का भी नाम सुना होगा, एक सिनर्जी करके एक टर्म होता है अंग्रेजी में, तो वो लोग बोलने लगेंगे उस चीज को. तो रीजन तो एज सच नहीं कोई पॉइंट करने का जरूरत है मेरे हिसाब से. द थिंग इज दैट इफ वन लुक्स properly at the structural aspects, these opportunities these big banks, आप अगर HDFC को कंपेयर करेंगे विद द साइज ऑफ अदर बिग बैंक्स, यू विल रियलाइज कि अभी भी HDFC कितना छोटा है फर्स्ट. फिर अपना पर कैपिटा इनकम का भी आप हालत देख लीजिए, जो कि मतलब ग्रो ही करना चाहिए. एंड इन दैट सिनेरियो बैंकिंग सर्विसेज का भी ग्रोथ काफी बढ़ेगा सर. देर आर लॉट मेनी अदर फैक्टर्स ऑल्सो. ये जो मर्जर है जिसका इशू बन रहा है अभी, दिस विल बिकम, वही जैसे मैंने कहा, आज जो चैलेंज है वो सिनर्जी के रूप में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा. तो दीज आर very strong structural bets on the overall Indian economy as such, and one can take bets on them, but then these bets are not in momentum flavor today. Tomorrow it can be. You have seen example of ITC में आज क्या चेंज हो गया nobody knows, but then when it was stuck around 200 rupees, it was a meme stock. I hope, really hope HDFC becomes a meme stock very soon.
It is already a meme stock and definitely a very relevant points. And we as an economy has to grow, then definitely the credit has to be given by
But
the
even in
bank.
Kotak Bank, if you look at, see, HDFC has demerged several of its verticals like HDFC AMC वगैरह. कोटक बैंक तो आपको एक बंच में मिल रहा है एक जगह पे, सारा अभी भी उसी के अंदर है. सो if you look at value unlocking proposition की अगर हम बात करें, तो काफी स्कोप है. इट इज जस्ट दैट कि अगेन आप क्या, what is that you are looking for, that is also very important. One needs to know themselves first, that what they are looking for, that then only their decision, actions, analysis will be right for them.
Right. And one sector, Ravi bhai, which you have not taken that much exposure for obvious reasons, the valuation, and Vineet has also joined us and he's more heavyweight on those sectors. तो सोलर और इस तरीके का जो रिन्यूएबल थीम है, इस पे पहले रवि भाई से सुनते हैं, फिर विल कम टू विनीत टू नो. तो अभी क्या लग रहा है, एज अ स्पेस हॉट है, अच्छा कर रहा है, बट एंट्री क्यों नहीं ले पा रहे रवि भाई?
सर मैंने तो एक दिन मैसेज डाला था कि इंडिया में इकलौता पोर्टफोलियो शायद मेरा होगा जिसमें कोई भी सोलर या ईपीसी कंपनी नहीं है. सो वही, द थिंग इज दैट वैल्यूएशन कंफर्ट, then the overall the money dynamics of the sector, then too much dependence on subsidies, government policy, and also as an economy and a country, we do not have the critical resources on which we can लाइक सी आप कितनी भी बड़ी इमारत बना सकते हो, बट फाउंडेशंस बहुत स्ट्रांग होने चाहिए। ओके, किसी और के मोहताज पे आप चीजें एक हद तक खींच सकते हो, बट वो एक न एक पॉइंट पे वो ट्रबल करना चालू करती हैं। वो लाइक जो लोएस्ट कॉस्ट प्रोड्यूसर जो थ्योरी है सर, दैट इज द फंडामेंटल थ्योरी ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन। बेसिकली उसी पे रहता है कि जो भी सबसे सस्ते में आप बना सकते हो आप बनाओ, पूरी दुनिया को बेचो, और बाकी लोग जो दुनिया है वो सबसे सस्ते में बनाती है उनसे खरीद लो। बट उसके लकूनास क्या है, कोविड के टाइम पे ढंग से दिखना चालू हुआ लोगों को। सो अगेन लाइक ये एक रीजन है कि लाइक आई वाज नेवर एवर मच कंफर्टेबल विथ रिन्यूएबल वगैरह। एंड अगेन इट इज ऑल्सो अ सेक्टर जिसमें वेरी हाई टेक्नोलॉजिकल डिसरप्शन के भी केसेस रहेंगे सर, बिकॉज एवरीथिंग इज इवॉल्विंग। एंड एज आई से लाइक वन नीड्स टू बी वेरी कॉन्शियस ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट हु दे आर, whether you are an tech enthusiast, you are an entrepreneur, or you are a investor, उसके हिसाब से आपका पर्सपेक्टिव चेंज होता रहेगा। And yes, you can say like, I'm tad bit conservative in my approach with regard to investing and all. So I have taken a very conservative call. It may be so that like, अगर like 3-4 years back, like when these things were just evolving, उस वक्त valuation comfort वगैरह होता अगर इनमें, तो वहां पे से वहां देखा जा सकता है, बिकॉज आप रिस्क ले सकते हो, बट वन नीड्स टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर यू पेइंग फॉर इट। अभी टुडे सोलर वगैरह तो सर रिन्यूएबल अपनी जगह पे। आई वाज लुकिंग एट अ कंपनी कॉल्ड ट्रेंट, उसका पी 184 या 194, आई डोंट रिमेम्बर। मैं मतलब ऐसा मेरे को अच्छा लगा, हंसी आई देख करके। मैंने कहा गुड फॉर यू। तो मेरा तो अप्रोच यही रहता है सर।
Thanks, Ravi. So, Vineet, over to you, and then we'll come to Sandeep. And if Rajesh ji is also free, he can also join us. Yeah, Vineet.
Thanks, Prince. Good evening, everybody. तो देखो यार, when it comes to solar, no, I view solar as a part of the larger energy basket, and I'm actually bullish on energy overall, and not solar or not renewables per se. I think a lot of the points that Ravi's mentioned are absolutely correct, and that's one of the reasons why I was rather late to solar, and the main reason was I couldn't find any play. And by the time I realized that this is a theme that's worth playing about 7-8 months back, uh, everything in the space was almost fully and more than fully priced. तो वहां पर काफी समय लगा टू स्टिल फाइंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज जहां वैल्यू डिस्कवरी पूरी तरीके से नहीं होगी, एंड आई मैनेज टू फाइंड वन प्लेयर दैट आई थॉट was not fully discovered in value, more so because some of the things that they were doing also made it a special situation of sorts. It wasn't just obviously it was in the solar space, and they were, a combination of, part module manufacturer, but at the same time, EPC company as well. And उनका geographical एक advantage मुझे identify हुआ था, where they were in a place where not a lot of other competitors were there, and so major projects in that geography in those contiguous 3 or 4 states would likely go to them. Plus उनकी capacities काफी सारी on stream आ रही थी. None of it was reflected in the numbers, obviously, because the capacity was still being developed, but I knew that it's going to get developed very quickly. And compared to the rest of the pack, I felt that it was quite, not cheap by itself, but compared to the rest of the pack, it was cheaper on most multiple counts, and that's why I went ahead and took a small position. But what Ravi said is spot on, right? That a part of the story has been played out, and the markets tend to pay up for potential exponential growth in the future. इसलिए इन सब stocks में बड़ा position बना पाना is very difficult. So even for me, this particular position that I'm talking about is a small position, so like 4 or 5% of the portfolio. As you know, I'm quite a concentrated investor. मैं usually 12 से 15 stocks रखता हूँ, and the top 6 or 7 stocks in my portfolio are usually about 60 to 70% of the portfolio. So this is towards the bottom end of the portfolio. But the larger power theme I am extremely bullish on, and I think there are other pockets in, so the entire the power value chain is very large. I think, according to me, there are about 2 or 3 segments in that power value chain where the profit pools are more concentrated. Now, what I mean by that is these are areas that are critical to the power ecosystem being developed. सरकार की तरफ से बहुत सारा पैसा allocate हुआ है to the sector. It's going to keep happening. India's power capex cycle is long overdue. The last time we had a proper power capex cycle was almost a decade ago, right? And तब से हमारा per capita consumption of power has gone up significantly, and absolutely every projection that we're making on growth impinges on the fact that our power output will increase significantly. Now, in this backdrop, there are a couple of segments where the number of players participating and competing for that entire share is very small. And the sector that I like the most in this entire space, the segment, rather not sector, is the transmission and distribution space. And the reason is fairly simple. There are, I can count the number of companies on my fingertips, which have the capability of doing the kind of T&D work that is required for us to be able to get anywhere close to the kind of power output that we want to reach in the next 5 to 10 years. And as most of you will realize, that agar cricket match खेलोगे, the first thing that you'll do is you'll prepare the pitch. एक बार pitch बनेगी तभी आप bat ball लाओगे या players इकट्ठा करोगे, outfield वगैरह आप ठीक करोगे. The first thing is you are going to fix the pitch, and that's what transmission and distribution is for power, and that's the space where the speed of capex will be, in my opinion, the largest. So it will not only be big money spent, but also fast money spent, and big money and fast money spent in a space where there are limited number of players who can compete. And all of those limited number of players who can compete were till about 6 to 8 months back available at almost bottom dollar valuation compared to their historical past. Of course, many of them have now run up a little bit and the market has caught on, and I wouldn't necessarily advise anybody to take fresh positions in multiple transmission and distribution companies blindly. But आप stock by stock अगर study करेंगे, there are still some opportunities that might exist. As you know, Prince, and all your listeners, some of them who must be following me on Twitter and X will know that my portfolio is public, right? I share it every month, the large updates and allocation percentages as well. And my biggest position now is a T&D EPC player now, which also has some work that's happening on the data center part of so the data center industry, and that's an optionality. So I invested in that company when there was a bit of panic in the months of February and March. तो वही क्लासिकल इन्वेस्टिंग स्टाइल था कि एक सेक्टर आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया जहां आपको दिख रहा है कि टेलविंड्स आएंगी. उस सेक्टर में the number of players competing is not very large, the size of opportunity is very large, and the speed of money that's going to be spent in that sector is also very fast. So it was a nice confluence of factors, and then it was just about sitting back and waiting for an entry. And I was very lucky that when I formed this theory and I identified this company, 1-2 महीने के अंदर उसमें dip आ गया अच्छा खासा, and I went out and built a reasonable size position, and then since then it's done quite well, and it's become the largest position in my portfolio. I continue to hold it. I will not add it more at this stage. I think it's like most things, the market is probably rewarding it a little ahead of the numbers actually showing up. But yeah, that's a space, the transmission and distribution space, that I think is the part of the power ecosystem that might see some really big winners. It's also important to realize that the risks that come with this space are also very real, because all of these are capital intensive businesses. Many of these companies in the space have quite a bit of debt, and they're essentially fundamentally doing well because there is an assumption that the kind of power targets that have been put out by the government are going to be met, and there will be that kind of money that will be spent. अगर उसमें कोई भी change आता है, and there could be many reasons why that could change. The most obvious one, obviously, being any unforeseen outcome in the elections. So if there is any change to that effect, तो आपके जो growth models है will completely change. The kind of cash flows you're expecting them to make will completely change, and the valuations will completely change. So that's a risk that everybody must be aware of. Anybody trying to dabble in these spaces, that any event that is out of your control and can happen really fast can derail the valuation multiples of your companies quite significantly, and you could see very large drawdowns very fast, and you won't get the time to exit. So if you're taking positions in these companies, you should be mindful of those risks and really understand the space well before you allocate large amounts of money to them.
Very, very relevant point, Vineet. So, Vineet, we'll come to you again. Meanwhile, we have Sandeep and Rajesh ji also. And Ravi, as and when you feel to add to the ongoing conversation, please. So, Sandeep, Ravi and I were discussing about the election thing, in the sense like from last 2 days, although 2 days is too less a time to decide on the factor that this is one factor which is showing the direction of election, that obviously FIIs would be buying with a one parameter in mind, that some stable government is forming. So that was my assumption, but we were discussing about, so how you view this buying, and going forward also, like what's your reading of the market before June 4th and after that?
Hey, Prince. Thanks. Vineet, let me first say hello to Vineet. I think first time I'm crossing each other. Vineet, I pinged you also. I'll be in New York on 6th and 7th of June. So if your scheduled matches, would like to meet you, and we can talk more on DM.
Oh, fantastic!
Okay.
Love to catch up.
Perfect. Prince, so 4th June may see we all are very fixated with the downside risk, right? What I'm also thinking is the upside risk, because if what happens is what everyone is expecting to happen, then there will be a frenzy on 2-3 counts. Large cap, there is no frenzy possible. Maybe Nifty will go another 5-10%. That's where FIAs will say, okay, you guys are going nuts. We don't have rush to buy India for 2027 and 2024 itself. So large cap, that is not possible. Mid cap, small cap, already very elevated. Numbers are not coming. All these fancy style of stocks reporting 10-20% kind of a growth. How much valuation can we stretch, right? But stories can be sold very fast, right? So in stories, in renewables, in power, all those hot themes, for very valid reasons, can really go very stretched. So if anyone has not already taken a position, probably this is like last chance and you will never get. Flip side is, obviously, if that doesn't happen, this entire story will just collapse in a matter of weeks, and probably people won't even be able to exit, especially in lower micro caps and smaller cap kind of a stock where liquidity is always an issue. So even before you could realize or understand what is happening, you'll probably be down 40-50%. But that's only 5% of the market. But large cap, I don't think. I mean, it's an event well priced in. I don't think we are talking about upper circuit and down circuit. I'll be very, very surprised no matter what Mr. Modi says or what FII says, etc. I don't think our markets are so shallow that, unless it's like a shocker kind of a number where BJP is completely out, then a down circuit is possible, but upper circuit, just because, BJP is coming again, which is obviously a big continuity. Pockets will see the froth, big jumps, 20-30%, 40% in a matter of month. But Nifty, I don't think that is possible, purely because FIs will continue to sell. They're under no compulsion to continue remain invested in India. I mean, that they have been doing for many years now, 3 years, 4 years, right? Within emerging market basket, MSCI, our weight has probably gone up. I mean, I may be off by many percentage, and which is obviously lakhs of crores rupees, but maybe from 10-12 we are almost 18-20, purely because China investing universe is coming down and India dollar returns have been very good. I mean, the one big story which within India we never focus, because we are always focused on INR returns. But for foreigners, dollar returns matter. So in spite of all the talk of a relatively good decade from 2014 to 2012-22, our dollar returns were nowhere compared to, let's say, US markets because of US what it saw on the tech side. But now with stable currency, and there are many reasons, and we can probably go another half an hour on that macro side, why FX volatility has come down, why INR is one of the best currency in last 2 years, especially the way COVID fiscal challenge was managed. I mean, we were really the best among the 20, and I don't give a lot of credit to BJP for that. I think it was more of a compulsion. इंडिया में जो कुछ भी अच्छा होता है वो हमारी मजबूरी होती है, ना कि choices होती हैं. We didn't have a choice to print like bigger players can do. तो हमने झूठ बोल बोल करके बीजेपी ने आया बोला 20 लाख करोड़ का पैकेज, हमने कुछ नहीं दिया, किसी को कुछ भी नहीं दिया. इंडिया में किसको क्या मिला? कोविड में कुछ नहीं मिला. And we just managed, right? And obviously we are benefiting from that prudence now 2 years, 3 years down the line. Our fiscals are in control. Our currency is very stable. And the expectation, GOI yields, I mean, those who monitor macro very big will realize, I don't recall India versus US being less than 4-5% in last 20 years. Now that gap is only 2%, which is unthinkable. In fact, India VIX is now less than 15, and there are structural reasons also. And we are very heavily uncorrelated or very low correlated compared to, let's say, global markets. So no longer dumb thinking of, watching SGX in the morning and predicting Nifty works for us, because we have become our own market in many ways. There is structural reasons also, retail, DII, etc. But there is a macro reason also, because of the our macros are very delinked in a way. We are no longer Faisal 5, etc. So anyway, Prince, I'll probably continue to talk in like many random directions. I'll rather let you ask few questions so that I talk in senses and structure rather than just babbling here and there.
Yeah, Ravi, we'll take views from Rajesh ji, and then if Ravi and Vineet has anything to say on which we discussed, then we'll come to you again. Yeah, Rajesh ji.
So I think with respect to our market, as Sandeep ji said, now it doesn't work that we see SGX Nifty what's happening there. पहले होता था कि फेड क्या बोलेगा, यूएस क्या बोलेगा, अब होता है मोदी क्या बोलेगा. So these things have changed, right? So let's see what happens on 4th June. So we'll see a stable government there, and as usual business will continue, and probably we'll see much stronger capex theme continuing in the next 5 years. So it's just the beginning of the capex spending, and I think the power and transmission theme is a very strong theme going forward as well. It is just the beginning of that particular theme, looking at the demand side of the story in detail. So I think I've spoken many times on power sector earlier as well. So probably we'll let other people talk about it or other things. Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Welcome to. So Ravi, you heard Vineet, you also heard Sandeep and Rajesh ji. Any points to make?
So sir, like Vineet sir जी के साथ मैं spot on agree करता हूँ, because power as a theme has been one of my favorite picks. And जब भी सर बोल रहे थे विनीत सर, तो मैं गिन रहा था. So directly or indirectly, I'm invested in 9 companies which are related to power. They are PSUs, they are private players, and yes, because it is one of the sectors which was passed out of any fresh capital in the entire period of 2007 to 2016. कोई भी नया प्रोजेक्ट, कुछ भी नया नहीं उसमें नहीं आने दिया गया, and there were different reasons for that. But at the same time, law of averages, so I was pretty much confident that the power consumption, because in 2017 or 18, India earned a special tagma हमें मिला था that India became power surplus, and a developing country becoming power surplus is not a good sign. That was primarily because the demand from industries was going down. And then there was a huge coverage about, the power sectors and projected demand and the deficit in the projected deficit, which was based on the current capacity. So that made me very bullish. And yes, as this thing regarding AI and data center further, opened up, that also made me very, even more bullish. But I have been focused more towards power producers, and power producers with very strong balance sheet. People who can raise capital at near or at the repo rate or the near repo rate. terms and who have a very strong profit pool, because it is a sector which is not only very intensive, or capital intensive, but the turnaround time of capital in this sector is very, very high. So, and I mean, practically it is not possible to keep a very strong pulse on, what is happening this day, that day. I'm not that kind of an investor. So I like things where, things can be predicted with a very fair degree of comfort. So I have gone with that. Then, different verticals in power. My focus, as Vinit Bhai was very spot on in pointing out, that transmission and distribution, you have the speed of turning around of time of capital is much faster there. So that is definitely true there. But then there are other aspects also, one which one can explore, maintenance and repair. You might be remembering, Prince Bhai, I had mentioned G Power to you quite some time back, and even the firm about which I think, Vinit Bhai was talking, is also in that domain, flue gas desulfurization and all. So yeah, I mean that is there, and with regard to, I think it's Sandeep ji. So I wouldn't agree to some of the points which he pointed out, but yeah, I mean it's everyone is has a right to be what believe in what they believe in. So that's pretty much from my side on whatever our speakers said.
Thanks, Ravi. So quickly, Brajesh ji, you had something to say, and then we move on to other speakers. And I also see Jiten sir. So Jiten sir, just in case you have few minutes for our audience, would love to hear you.
And Prince, if possible,
Yeah, Brajesh.
send, invite Sagar and Amit also as a speaker. Sagar, if he
Okay.
wants to speak up.
Yeah, sure. I'll check. Yeah, Brajesh ji.
हेलो प्रिंस एंड एवरीवन। ठीक है, अब मार्केट टेम्परेचर एंड एफआई बाइंग आपका टॉपिक है। एक्चुअली अभी आई डोंट नो, मैं ट्रेवल कर रहा हूँ तो अभी शायद विनीत जी बोल रहे थे तो ट्रेंड का जिसमें उन्होंने एग्जांपल दिया, तो एग्री करता हूँ। इस टाइप के जो पी हैं सस्टेनेबल नहीं है। 200 के पी इसको पे भले ही टाटा ग्रुप से मेरे को कोई शिकायत नहीं, टाटा ग्रुप में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट द प्राइस वैल्यूएशंस आर वेरी वल्नरेबल। तो आप 2028, 29, 30 का प्राइस आप आज से दे दोगे तो मार्केट में रिस्क तो इन्वॉल्व हो रही है, और काफी जो है फ्रोथ भी है। आज भी अगर सेंसेक्स 1200 पॉइंट बढ़ी है,
Brajesh bhai,
बीएससी की जो
your voice
हेलो
is breaking a lot. Can you please quickly check your connection?
I think, Prince, for us it was
एक्चुअली
quite okay.
तो
Okay, then.
Maybe others can also confirm, but he was at least audible, if not very, very clear.
ओके, तो मेरा तो उतना ही कहना है कि इट्स टाइम फॉर एक्सट्रीम कॉशियस। हो सकता है निफ्टी और इंडेक्स लोगों के शॉर्ट और सरप्लस की वजह से कुछ भी प्राइस हो जाए, लेकिन मार्केट के जो वैल्यूएशंस हैं बहुत ही ज्यादा फ्रॉथी हैं। तो एक हो सकता है कि मार्केट नया हाइक बना रहा है और आपके पोर्टफोलियोज नए टिप बना दे, ऐसा सीन आने वाला है, क्योंकि हर चीज प्राइस इन है मार्केट में। तो टाइम पे एक्स्ट्रा कॉशियसनेस, और मार्केट में कुछ वैल्यूएबल भी बहुत ज्यादा बचा नहीं है। कोई गिने चुने एक दो स्टॉक दिखते हैं जो सस्ते हैं, बाकी तो ऐसा स्टॉक बचे ही नहीं है मार्केट में। इट्स वेरी वेल डिस्कवर्ड बुल मार्केट। तो मैं तो कॉशियस रहने का बोलूंगा। आई वॉज ए बॉर्न बुलिश, और हमेशा मैं बुलिश ही रहा हूँ आपके हर स्पेस में और जनरली, बट इट्स a time to take off the money from the table and wait for a sustainable correction for re-entry। और शॉर्ट में अगर छोटी मोटी अगर डिप में भी कोई आपने बाय किया तो हाई चांसेस कि आप मार्केट में बुरी तरह ट्रैप हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि वैल्यूएशंस कहीं से कहीं तक भी फेवर में नहीं है आपके। जो पुरानी राइम है, डियर डियर बट डियर, ऑलवेज रिमेम्बर दैट फर्स्ट डियर इज, उसको अपन हिरण है, दूसरा डियर इन्हें लवली है, प्यारा है, और आखिरी डियरर है, वो बहुत महंगा है। तो आई एम बुकिंग कंटिन्यूसली। जो भी मेरे स्टॉक्स थे, कुछ स्टॉक्स 10x हुए हैं, कुछ शिप बिल्डिंग वगैरह में मैं बुलिश था, बट अब वैल्यूएशन जो है कहीं से भी मेरे फेवर में नहीं है, और स्टॉक्स मैं बेच रहा हूँ रोज और बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, उसकी मेरे को चिंता भी नहीं है।
Right, sir.
जितने
So,
बता रहे हैं।
yeah, yeah, Brijesh, thank you for your inputs. Yeah, Jiten sir, over to you.
So, yeah, I also just want to echo what Brijesh is uh, saying that, I mean, this is stocks are very well discovered. I mean, in fact, over discovered is what I would rather say. Uh, to find value, it is difficult. You have to, I mean, it is a nightmare for people like us. But then there are some opportunities where uh, there could still be value. Some of the banks, private banks are offering some value. Some PSU banks still offered value and so on. Uh, and obviously, I mean, last few months, or rather last 6 months, I have been buying into, I think we talked about in previous phases also and in the limit that chemicals is something, where I was looking at mean reversion in uh, quite a few names. So, a kind of basket approach there is what I am doing. So, otherwise, just holding on to the stocks which I have, lot of which I hold, I know is expensive, but then market is willing to reward. I have taken some money off the table where I think, valuations are, beyond blue sky also. So, and I mean, I'm in no hurry to deploy that, but though that is not a conscious call of, raising cash, it's just that selling, and it may get deployed also soon. Nothing major, maybe just 5-10% uh, is the cash which could have been raised because of some selling, which obviously I still want to deploy because again, long term, I am positive of the markets. Uh, and, I think any decent correction is always an opportunity to buy. That's what my approach is going to be. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Great, sir. Sure. So, sir, the one question I have on the gas prices, which has increased lately. So, any sense like what could be the potential impact on the gas distribution companies, if you want?
Frankly, I have no view on that, to be honest. I mean, it is something I've been traveling, so, I've not been able to study the impact, and so it will be very difficult for me to give answer on that.
All right, sir. So, Ravi and Amitji has their hand raised if they have any questions for Jiten.
No, like I wanted to just echo the same thing with Jitin sir and even the speaker before Jitin sir. But like I wouldn't say like that situation is so gloomy that it is a fairly discovered market or ye wo. The thing is that, see, we are at a cusp where things are actually changing. The number of participants, the average pocket of, the participants, a lot of things are in flux. And as always, there are so many verticals. आप अगर एक दो सेक्टर्स को एक्सक्लूड कर दो, आई डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड कहाँ पे है फ्रॉथ। आप ये रिन्यूएबल, ये सब चीजों को जरा माइनस कर दो, या फिर एसएमई वगैरह को, सी केमिकल्स, उसमें भी एग्रो केमिकल्स, टेक्सटाइल्स, मेटल्स, अगर पिछला 6 महीना हटा दो, 4-6 महीना, वो भी इवन इतना क्रीप होने के बाद भी मे बी अभी फेयर वैल्यूएशन के पास पहुंच रहे होंगे। So, like, again, it's not that I'm, disputing what Sir said. Sir is, as always, like, he has been a guiding light in value investing, and I completely follow to the tip what he says. But, it's not, all I want to say that there is no need to be, so also gloomy that, the markets are extremely expensive. There is no opportunity. It is better to have money off the table, because I firmly believe that far too more money has been lost in trying to time the market rather than the one which has been lost by being in the market.
So yeah, I agree,
Right.
and that's what I think, Ravi. That's what I was trying to convey. That long term, I remain positive.
Yes, yes, sir, yes.
Opportunities are lesser, but they are there. And as I said, one private bank gave excellent opportunity. Large private bank gave excellent opportunity recently. So as I said, even if I have 5-10% cash, it is not a conscious decision to raise any cash. Uh, but slight, variance I would have is that, the number of sectors where there is froth is quite high is what I would think. I mean, so for example, railways, defense, a lot of PSUs, these renewables in this, quite a bit in this SME space, there is froth is what I think. But at the same time, market always, and I think this is true in any bull market, there will always be, pockets which are neglected where nobody wants to go. Uh, there are pockets which are having temporary headwinds, which are completely out of radar of people and so on. So, for example, another sector which we can look at right now is sugar. I think post-election, there is one sector which will do well. So, you just have to, basically, search for those. If you are a value investor, again, for growth investors or momentum investors, it's a different ballgame. But for people like us, who can't pay very high valuations, we have to look contra. Uh, so, uh, so that's my just addition to that.
सर जस्ट वन कॉम्प्लीमेंट लाइक आप हमेशा काफी अच्छा बोलते हैं एंड आई इट्स अ प्लेजर एंड लाइक गुड फॉर्च्यून टू बी एबल टू लिसन.
Thanks.
Fine. So we'll come to you, Jiten sir, as and when I have question or maybe any companion speaker would like to ask. Yeah, Amit ji, quickly over to you.
I agree with Jiten and Ravikant. कोई भी मार्केट हो, बुल मार्केट हो, ऑलवेज रहती है जस्ट टू फाइंड और किस पॉकेट में है. और रही बात अब इंडेक्स में आते हैं तो इंडेक्स उतना महंगा है कि इंडेक्स बहुत बढ़ गया है. इफ यू सी इंडेक्स बेसिस की बात करता हूं मैं, तो इंडेक्स अभी किसके आसपास के पे ट्रेड कर रहा है, विच इज अराउंड 20 ईयर मीडियन. सो यू कांट से कि महंगा हो गया है. हाँ, और जबकि अगर आप 20 ईयर्स बैक जाते हैं तो जो कंपोनेंट थे वो काफी मेटल वगैरह कमोडिटी वाले थे. तो अगर आप न्यू देखेंगे तो इंडेक्स अभी सस्ता ही है, महंगा नहीं है. इफ यू टॉक अबाउट इंडेक्स ओनली. लेकिन हाँ, बाकी मार्केट में सर्टेन पॉकेट है, यू कैन से कि भाई सर्टेन पॉकेट्स आर. तो एज ए इन्वेस्टर वी हैव लॉट ऑफ चॉइस कि हम किस पॉकेट में जाएं, कौन सी कंपनी लें, कौन सा सेक्टर भी चूज. तो दैट वे लॉट ऑफ ऑप्शंस भी है. मार्केट आपको ऑप्शन देता है बहुत सारा. तो बेटर है कि हम अच्छे ऑप्शंस में लें. लाइक जितेन सर कह रहे हैं कि शुगर इनको अच्छा लग रहा है. तो देयर आर लॉट ऑफ सेक्टर. मैं बोलता हूँ कि जैसे टेलीकॉम एंसिलरी मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है यहाँ से 2 साल 3 साल के लिए. पावर है, बहुत अच्छा करेगा, यहाँ से भी अच्छा करेगा. एंसिलरी है, पावर में पूरी वैल्यू चेन, मतलब कुछ एक को छोड़ दो, अब 10 में से 7 जो वैल्यू चेन के स्टॉक है वो अच्छा ही करेंगे, बिकॉज अपॉर्चुनिटी इतना बड़ा है. एंड आप अभी टेलीकॉम एंसिलरी मेरे को बहुत अच्छी लग रही है. अभी आज ही वोडाफोन ने बोला है कि भाई वी आर टॉकिंग टू वेंडर्स. तो अच्छा, पहले मेक इन इंडिया नहीं था, सब बाहर से इम्पोर्ट होता था. अब वो जो बाहर वाले भी हैं वो इंडिया में भी कुछ ना कुछ करेंगे, तो दे आप पक्का मान के चलिए. तो लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स विल कम, सर्विस भी आएगी, काफी कुछ आएगा. तो अपॉर्चुनिटी बहुत जगह है, बहुत जगह अपॉर्चुनिटी है.
Thanks,
क्वेश्चंस क्या?
I'll come to you again. So संदीप भाई, एक एसएमई वाले पॉइंट पे कंस्ट्रक्टिव साइड पे मैं थोड़ा डिस्कशन को लेना चाहता हूँ, बिकॉज एक एसएमई का नाम होते ही एक रिस्क वाली चीज माइंड में आती है. तो वहां पे मतलब वो थॉट प्रोसेस थोड़ा ड्राइव करो और विल टेक जितेन सर's ओपिनियन ऑन दैट.
Sure. I mean, see, first of all, I'm tired of SME as a word, and I'm tired of explaining why I invest in SME, because of the kind of company I have in that segment, right? So absolutely on record, multiple times I've said, I'm saying all those statements which associate SME as some kind of a manipulated market, some kind of a fraud, some kind of, non-economic reasons related rallies, etc. That is there. But only point is to debate whether that is 90% of the market or 30% of the market, right? That is where the perceptions will differ. My hunch is probably that's 30% of the SME portfolio companies. Now, the funny thing is, again, we end up talking about so much of SME. I don't want to bore your audience today, Prince, so I'll probably rush through it. Is that I've also realized that all those SME investors are typically looking for those 30%. So what was initially, not I didn't realize for a long time is that while people were trying to figure out which are those 30% companies, once they figured out, they left 70% and they were trying to catch those 30%. So it's a very different market. Having said that, there are another 30% companies there, which are amazing promoters doing good quality jobs. Cash flow is good. Obviously, at 100 count kind of a top line, 10 count kind of a bottom line, your internal control systems will not be solid. They don't have backgrounds. They don't have management bandwidth. They don't have skills to do good quality investor communication. They often get carried away in terms of overcommitting. All those things which probably even in, let's say, typical VCP style of investing, promoters get a lot of hand holding by seasoned VCs and Ps. So that class will always be not there, and because of that, many of us are seeing the opportunity of major mispricing. So the companies which are zero debt companies, doing solid, verifiable, repeatable growth of 40, 50, 60, 100%. Whatever reasons, you can debate, you can insert a lot of words like moat and this and no competition, adani aayega to khatam ho jayenge, all that. Bottom line is numbers are there, right? And there are enough ways to figure it out that those numbers are genuine. Still, those companies are probably trading at, let's say, 15, 20 times trailing, because there is a wider tag of SME being some kind of a fraud segment. So main board people probably don't want to come here. And there is another reason also. Most of the main board decision makers are sitting on 500 crore, 1000 crore, 5000 crore kind of a AUM. Even if they want to, they can't, right? So they don't want to pollute their mind. But for UHNI, that's not a challenge. For retail, that's not a challenge, right? For them, it's not an allocation problem. कि यार मेरे को 2% पोर्टफोलियो लेना है तो मेरी मजबूरी है कि मुझे एचडीएफसी में जाना ही जाना है 5%, right? A big PMS running 20,000 crore, can't even dare SME. So another problem I see, Prince, which I'm obviously learning, is that professional management cannot venture into SME because of lack of quality disclosure. So everyone wants to play safe, right? What if all those stocks in the crossfire of all these whispered numbers, loose standards of corporate governance, you get caught and your professional reputation goes for a toss. So even if they realize that company is good, they say, Sandeep, sab samajh mein aa raha hai, but I don't think I want to take that risk for my PMS. I'll invest it I know a lot of PMS guys who are investing their own money in SME, but they are not comfortable putting their money, and it is a very valid argument. If I am at their shoes, I'll exactly do the same. You don't want to put your client money where you can't defend why you did what you did. So that is where I'll probably end instead of taking names, but that is where also is the opportunity. Now we have talked about so many times, Prince, I don't want to come like every second week and say same thing as a parrot. Like the question which we need to understand, why is certain pockets of micro caps are going much, much faster than the industry peers? It's not like there is a global precedence that small will become bigger and bigger will lose market share. Actually, the corporate history will tell you otherwise, because of the technology, because of the cost of entry and exit in most of the sectors. Actually, bigger is becoming bigger in last 30 years, globally as well as in India, right? So it is counterintuitive to assume that a small player will grow much faster than, let's say, a mid-size or bigger size player. But there are still some reasons of why it is happening, but I'll just not go venture there. I'll take a pause here. And maybe Jitin sir, I'm not sure I've never interacted with you, so I'm not sure whether you will, how comfortable you'll be to answer this question. But maybe coming from a, more a person who is probably doing, professional money management, is my reading about why, main board players are not ready to even evaluate some of these SME companies. Is that reading correct, or am I totally misreading something?
No, no, definitely not. I mean, I have invested in SME companies also.
Uh-huh.
There's one company which we have invested from 2017. It was fairly small company that time, maybe 120 crores or something market cap. And currently it is at upwards of 2500. So I've had very good, this thing I'm holding for 7 years now, this company. So I'm definitely not saying that, SMEs, will not have good companies. It's just that the good companies are so well discovered. At least what I have been looking at, there are certain companies which I have also looked at and all that. Uh, and then if I dig deeper and all that, a lot of these companies don't have cash flows, and maybe because of high growth or whatever. But there are some this thing. There are some companies which I would love to invest, but nowhere near the valuations where which I would want to. So that is what I'm trying to say, that there are good companies, but valuations are very high in those good companies. And then obviously, as we all know, there will be a lot of companies which will fall by the wayside. And that number, according to me, will be as high as 70%, 80% of the SME companies. And yes, that 10-20% of the companies is something which we have to unearth and find, and invest in them at appropriate time. I am finding it difficult, and that might not be the case with everybody, obviously, but that's my limited point.
Thanks.
All right. So Jiten sir, although we had some discussion on that, so do you place IT sectors on similar lines, a case of mean reversion as we were talking about the chemical sector, or your rating is different on that?
No, yeah, I mean, so we've been tracking quite. I mean, I track IT services quite well, and I have a lot of concerns. I mean, the growth for a lot of these large companies is going to be in single digits, and they're still valued at 30 times. I mean, for a value investor, that still doesn't make sense. If I can see, FY26 growth could be even 15% or 20%, then I might have a case of investing at 25 times, 30 times. But unless I'm sure of that, there is no case for me as a value investor to invest in these large IT services companies at least. We are invested in a couple of IT product companies. They have done well, and we continue to hold them. But by and large, IT services, I'm still not comfortable with the valuations. Looking at, see what happens is everybody looks at, from the past. Past, these companies grew in double digits, mid-teen to high-teen kind of growth they've had for, past 5-10 years kind of. Do we see that happening again in the next 5-10 years? I think it will be very difficult. Uh, so, plus, there could be a potential disruption. We all know about it. I mean, since I am in the IT field, I can understand the power of, AI, and I think there could be some big changes happening in the future. Uh, I know people working on, uh, algorithms and this thing. I mean, all low level coding potentially can get disrupted. Now, so there could be a lot of job losses. There could be some job creations, obviously, in the AIs, but will that compensate for the job losses which happened? I'm still not sure of all the answers, to be honest. So there is confusion, and there is a real sense of, basically, disruption which can happen. I don't know whether it will happen or not. I hope I am wrong, because as a country, I think we have a large employed force in IT. So for our country's sake, uh, I'll be happy if my fears don't come true. But I'm not comfortable investing in many of these.
All right, sir. And sir, broadly, like earnings season is going on, so how had been your, your current view across the board? Which pockets are seeing good earnings, or it is limited to companies rather than saying the whole sector as a whole is showing good results? So broadly, your view on the earnings so far, or any sector or companies you have tracked without naming, of course. Jiten sir?
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute. I didn't realize that. I think result season is doing well, and broadly, I would focus on the companies which I am invested in or interested in, and most of that is coming according to what we were expecting, or even some better than what we were expecting. So no complaints. See, uh, we had talked about in the past about chemical sector, some mean reversion. I can see that happening in a few results, not few, in fact, in many results there. So I think worst for the chemical sector could be behind. So I expect, incrementally earnings will uh, keep on improving QOQ, but with, I think normalized margins coming at the maybe in Q3 or Q4 or next year. But that's okay. I have the propensity to wait for these things to play out. Uh, anyway, I believe chemicals, for example, is a long-term story. Even banking, I think. So when we talk about fraud, some of these private banks, large private banks are at a huge discount to at a 5-year, 10-year. But the state is not willing to, look at them. There have been FII selling and all that, some technical reasons, some issues they have had, slowing of growth or integration problems and so on. But these are going to get sorted out. See, you have to understand that if India are to become a 5 trillion and a $10 trillion economy, you will require these large banks, and these large banks have to grow larger. Uh, I think that is something which everybody should understand. So your chances of very decent compounding in some of these banks is very good. So at least, I would say that all those who are exposed to, high risk in their portfolio, in the sense that they are into segments which are, in momentum, very hot, very high multiples, at least some portion of their portfolios, they should put in some of these defensive names, is what I think. Again, it depends on person to person, but that's how I am positioning myself.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Yeah, Amit ji.
दो पॉइंट पे बोलना चाहूंगा। एक तो जैसा आपका मार्केट टेम्परेचर एंड एफआई बाइंग, दूसरा एसएमई। तो जैसा अभी मार्केट बहुत अंडर ओन है ऐसे एफआई के पर्सपेक्टिव से, अभी आप यू वोंट बिलीव, मतलब कुछ लोगों को पता होगा बट ज्यादातर लोग को नहीं पता होगा कि एफआई का जो होल्डिंग है मार्केट का, वो 2009 के बाद लोएस्ट है। इट्स बिलो 15% राइट नाउ। सो देख, सर्टेन पॉइंट के बाद तो वो जा ही नहीं सकता, मतलब कितना कुछ भी हो जाए। तो आई मीन कि मतलब जो जैसा बोलते हैं ना कि अभी केमिकल सेक्टर के लिए जितेन भाई बोल रहे थे कि अभी इनका वर्स्ट इज बिहाइंड, तो एफआई में भी इनका सेलिंग करीब करीब दे आर कमिंग टिल द नेक, तो ज्यादा ये बेच ही नहीं पाएंगे। तो मैं भी थोड़ा बहुत तो कुछ हुआ एंड इट विल बी स्टॉप। डोमेस्टिक मनी, एफआई मनी, रिटेल फोर्स सही है तो लिक्विडिटी का इश्यू नहीं रहेगा। तो इंडिया मार्केट भी मतलब वैल्यूएशन ज्यादा ही मिलेगा इसको, बिकॉज ग्रोथ है। ग्रोथ जितना इंडिया में ओवरऑल किधर भी नहीं है। ये मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव था मार्केट को लेके, ओवरऑल मतलब ब्रॉडर मार्केट को लेके। वो आता हूँ मैं एसएमई में। एसएमई में अभी काफी दिनों से कुछ लोग बोल रहे थे कि यार लाइक मतलब ऐसा हो रहा है, कंपनी अच्छी नहीं कर रही है, लाइक मतलब कंपनी में कुछ गड़बड़ है। तो मैं बोलना चाहूंगा कि जो इस तरह के लोग हैं वो सब तरफ हैं, मतलब चाहे वो मेन बोर्ड हो चाहे एसएमई हो। मेन बोर्ड में आपको इस तरह के एलिमेंट ज्यादा मिलेंगे जहां बैलेंस शीट में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो, कुछ अदर चीजें हो रही हो, जहां इन्वेस्टर को चीट हुआ होगा या मतलब कुछ पम्प डम चल रहा होगा, यू विल फाइंड मोर देयर। एसएमई छोटा स्पेस है और छोटा बेस है, दे कैन ग्रो, मतलब अगर अच्छी कंपनी, अच्छा प्रमोटर है एंड अच्छा सेक्टर है तो दे कैन ग्रो एक्चुअली वेल। आप सर्टेन पॉकेट देखेंगे तो बहुत अच्छा, और आज भी जिसे बोलते हैं कि वैल्यू नहीं है, आज भी एसएमई में इतना वैल्यू है, मेन बोर्ड में इतना वैल्यू है, बस ढूंढने वाला चाहिए। इफ यू, अगर आप मेहनत करेंगे, थोड़ा ढूंढेंगे, तो वैल्यू हर जगह है सर, हर जगह है। एंड एक्सुबरेंट से तो हर जगह दूर रहना चाहिए आपको, क्योंकि जब आप एक्सुबरेंट हो जाते हैं सर्टेन स्टॉक्स में तो आपको यू विल बर्न ओनली। आई विल सजेस्ट कि मतलब अपॉर्चुनिटी भी सब जगह है, थ्रेट भी हर जगह है, तो बेटर टू गो फॉर अपॉर्चुनिटी। ये अपना काम है एज ए इन्वेस्टर, अपने को काम करना, मेहनत करनी कि भैया कहाँ अपन अपॉर्चुनिटी देखें और कहाँ रिस्क देखें। तो रिस्क को मिटिगेट करना है और अपॉर्चुनिटी को बड़ा करना है। दैट्स व्हाट वी नीड टू डू।
अमित जी ने सही, बिल्कुल सही बोला। आप सिंपल एक एग्जांपल है, जब हम लोग नए नए जॉब में जाते हैं, राइट, हम भी एक एसएमई जैसे ही होते हैं, राइट। We are also kind of SME. We take every kind of risk. We want to do every kind of job at that point of time to rise ourselves in the job world. Right? Once you become a mature employee after 10, 15, 20 years, you have well established family. You have so many things. You don't take that much of risk, right? सो एसएमई में सिंपल बोलना है, एसएमई में फ्रोथ है, एसएमई में ये है। जब आप किसी चीज को एक्सप्लोर नहीं करोगे तो आपको सब कुछ ही फ्रोथ लगेगा। हमें तो लार्ज कैप भी फ्रोथ लगता है, क्योंकि लार्ज कैप हम एक्सप्लोर नहीं करते। तो लार्ज कैप में बहुत फ्रोथ है, ग्रो हो नहीं रहे हैं वहां पे, 40-40, 30-30 के मल्टीपल पे ट्रेड हो रहे हैं, तो वो सारा फ्रोथ ही तो है, जहाँ पे ग्रोथ ही नहीं हो रही है। तो ये तो सिंपल वही बात है, आप एक्सप्लोर करो तो आपको फ्रोथ दिखाई क्लीन हो जाएगी। अगर एक्सप्लोर नहीं करोगे तो फ्रोथ ही फ्रोथ दिखेगी हर तरफ।
अच्छा प्रिंस, एक इसमें मैं एक एडिशनल पॉइंट ऐड करता हूँ, जस्ट इंस्टेड ऑफ ट्राइंग टू मेक इट लुक लाइक अ कैम्प थिंग, देयर आर we call it comparables, right? So I know VCP market and listed market has no comparable because VCP में कंट्रोल प्रीमियम लगता है, एग्जिट्स मल्टीपल्स लगते हैं, कंपेयर टू लिस्टेड जहां पे सारा इन्वेस्टर्स है। तो इन जनरल यूएस टेक में या ग्लोबली कहीं पे भी जो स्टार्टअप वर्ल्ड विच इज लाइक अ टेक, सो एसएमई इज नॉट अ टेक startup, we shouldn't even think of it as, but there are examples and I'll take few examples where I'm not invested, so I'm very comfortable taking that as an example। जहां पे मेरी पोर्टफोलियो कंपनी है, मैं थोड़ा अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता हूँ एग्जांपल देने में। There is this company called Yes Optics. I'm obviously saying it on record because I've seen the data. That company got an offer from a global MNC for 400 CR, complete buyout. Promoter refused. This is like probably 18 months back because he wanted to grow. He didn't want to lose the control, right? He came to the listed SME market. SME की स्टैंडर्ड लोग ये मान के चलते हैं ना कि SME में सब कुछ फ्रॉथ है। ठीक ठाक से कंपनी ग्रो कर रहा है, 25-30%, 40%, नया प्लान डल रहा है, सब कुछ है। स्मॉल कैप मिड कैप में होता है तो उसको 50-60 पे बैठा देते लोग। ठीक सा सेक्टर है, कंज्यूमर पे आप ला सकते हो उसको, खुद का ब्रांड नहीं है, बट इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम, ही कैन इजीली डू इट। उसका 400 करोड़ का ऑफर है, विच इज लाइक ए वेरीफाइबल काइंड ऑफ ए क्लेम, राइट? ऑब्वियसली इट्स नॉट फॉर पब्लिक कंजम्पशन, बट any seasoned investor can go and try to figure it out. But, and for right reasons, that company is trading at least 40% discount to that value. Why? Because as a retail investor, as a Chennai investor, I'm not going to give him a control premium, right? I will value him from my standard metrics. बट वो सेम कंपनी आज फिर से डिलिस्ट हो जाए और वीसीपी प्लेस में चले जाए तो फिर से उसको उतना ही वैल्यूएशन मिल जाएगा। इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ क्रैकिंग द डील। लेट मी टेक अनदर एग्जांपल, गार्गी। ओपन चैलेंज है, क्यों? क्योंकि वो स्पेस वीसीपी में बहुत वेल कवर्ड है, ऑनलाइन ज्वेलरी, राइट? बिग सेगमेंट है। आप नंबर्स उठा लो, ब्रांड उठा लो, ग्रोथ उठा लो, मोट उठा लो, जो भी आपके पैरामीटर्स हैं आप उठा लो और आप बता दो कि वो आज 55 में है। एसएमई की सारी जनता उसको बोलती है कि ये फ्रॉथ है, बहुत बेकार रिजल्ट है, इसीलिए वो स्टॉक रिजल्ट्स के बाद ठंडा है। तो आई एम जस्ट सेइंग कि लोग ये जो ब्लाइंड एजम्पशन मान के चल रहे हैं कि एसएमई का जो इन्वेस्टर है उसको कुछ पता ही नहीं है, बस वो मतलब हो रहा है कुछ कहानी, कुछ स्टोरी पे खरीद रहा है। आपको मैं एज ए ग्रुप यहाँ पे एकेडमिक सेंस में, नॉट इन वेरी होस्टाइल सेंस, ओपन रिक्वेस्ट है कि, एंड देयर आर, बिकॉज देयर आर इनफ प्राइवेट सेक्टर कंपेरेबल ऑफ दैट कंपनीज, बिकॉज आई नो मेनी ऑफ दोस, वहां पे उसके हाफ बिजनेस स्ट्रेंथ पे, हाफ ग्रोथ मल्टीपल्स पे वैल्यूएशंस आर वेरी डिफरेंट। नाउ ओनली क्वेश्चन प्रिंस वी कैन से, why are we even trying to compare PE VC space versus listed space, right? But when a Zomato can be pushed via these big investment bankers and mutual funds to the throat of retail at the top of the valuation, and I'm not even talking about Card Trade and Paytm, what locus standi some of these professional fund managers have to simply call an entire segment with some sense of division. What is happening is actually is the democratization of information. Who are these SME investors? Obviously, there is a lot of people who have no idea, who are doing people investing. किसी ने खरीदा इसलिए खरीद लिया, किसी ने बेचा इसलिए खरीद लिया, चार्ट देख रहे हैं, सर्किट्स देख रहे हैं, एलसी देख रहे हैं, यूसी देख रहे हैं. But there is a huge segment which is tier 1, tier 2 colleges pass out, who has done enough financial intelligence, जिन्होंने कॉर्पोरेट्स में जॉब की है, जॉब छोड़ करके अब वो प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं. उनको वो सारी चीज पता है जो एक म्यूचुअल फंड वाले बंदे को पता है. ओनली थिंग इज कि म्यूचुअल फंड वाले बंदे के कंपल्सन नहीं है, उसके बॉस के ऑर्डर नहीं आएंगे ऐसी सिक्योरिटीज के कि आपको, भले ही ये आपके बोलते हैं ना क्लाइंट प्रॉक्सी फिड्यूसरी ड्यूटी, राइट, फिड्यूसरी ड्यूटी का सीधे सीधे वायलेशन है, फिर भी लेकिन आप अगेंस्ट वोट करिए. म्यूचुअल फंड्स ने आईसीसीआई सिक्योरिटीज में प्रीमियम में खरीद करके डिस्काउंट में बेच दिया है. वेरीफाइबल क्लेम है. इंडिया का पहला क्लास एक्शन सूट है. वी एज ए कंट्री शुड सपोर्ट जस्ट फॉर चीयर लीडिंग, नथिंग एल्स. हम बोलते हैं ना कि इंडिया को हमें सुधारना है, चेंज करना है. हमारे आंखों के सामने रॉबरी हुई, किसी मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया ने बोला उस पर एक भी? सीएनबीसी के एंकर्स आकर के बाद में बोल रहे हैं. तो सी पॉइंट इज, इट्स वेरी इजी टू सिंपली कॉल समवन एल्स कि ये सब फ्रॉड है, कि ये स्कैम है, बट जस्ट लुक एट व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एवरीवेयर. एंड वी ऑल नो प्रोमोटर्स आकर के 10-20% डील्स बेच रहे हैं 20,000 करोड़ मार्केट कैप में, 50,000 मार्केट कैप में, और डम्ब तरीके से सिंडिकेट बाइंग हो रही है म्यूचुअल फंड्स में. 5,000 करोड़ आईसीसीआई प्रूडेंशियल, 3,000 करोड़ एचडीएफसी, 2,000. ये कोई उनसे पूछने को नहीं तैयार है कि ये कंपनी अब कौन चलाएगा. मैंने तो कभी देखा ही नहीं है, मैं भी 15-20 साल से मार्केट में हूं सर, मैंने नहीं देखा है इस तरीके से बाइंग कि प्रमोटर 20% बेच रहा हो और इतना हॉट मार्केट, इतना सिप मनी पड़ा हुआ है कि ब्लाइंड बाइंग हो रही है. एंड एवरीवन नोज दोज कंपल्सन्स, but no one will talk. Why? Because those are big guys. And sorry if my sound has become, I'll say, a little
No, no.
aggrieved and this thing. I find it very frustrating when people come with a high moral ground and simply call it micro cap as some kind of this thing. All I'm saying, सत्यम भी हमारे आंखों के सामने हुआ मेन बोर्ड में, यस बैंक भी हमारे आंखों के सामने हुआ. प्रमोटर ने 400 करोड़ का कनॉट प्लेस दिल्ली में बंगला खरीदा, इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स की आर्टिकल में पड़ा हुआ था. उसके 3 साल के बाद वो कंपनी एक्सपोज हुई है. किसी फाइनेंशियल मीडिया ने नहीं पूछने की जरूरत महसूस की कि उस प्रमोटर की जिसकी 5 करोड़ की सैलरी है, उसके 400 करोड़ का बंगला खरीदने का कहां से पैसा आया. तब किसी रिटेल को आकर के नहीं समझाया गया कि बॉस हम सब बेच के जा रहे हैं, अब आप क्यों खरीद रहे हो. हर कंपनी जो स्कैम में फंसती है बिग में, अंत तो रिटेल ही आता है ना. 5 लाख रिटेल लेकर के वोडाफोन भी बैठता है, यस भी बैठता है, इंडेबल हाउसिंग फाइनेंस भी बैठता है. सो ऑल आई एम सेइंग, this is money and bad things happens in every segment. It is our job as an individual to figure out how to stay away out of it. Just don't use a broad brush to talk about something.
Right. Yeah, Jiten, sir.
No, yeah, I just wanted to say that I have to leave. I have to go out somewhere, so I thought I'll just take your permission to leave. So, yeah, heard, I mean, before parting, so basically my intention was never to, basically talk down any particular thing. It's just that the way I look at it, and the way someone else look at it could be different. I'm talking from my perspective. And as I said, I've had good, experience in SME. Currently, I'm not finding that easily. I'm sure, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. That could also be the case. I have to accept that. But I have not been able to do it. So I have to accept that, whatever I said is for me. For others, it could be different. Again, risk taking up capabilities could also be different. For somebody, paying 30-40 P for a 10% grower might be par for the course. For me, it is not there, and so on. So again, everybody has different, parameters, different risk taking capability, different way of investing. So again, no intention of obviously, basically downsizing. I've just talked about, sectors also like defense, railways. I have been invested, but I've been very open to admit that now I believe that there is a lot of fraud. So acceptance of, even capital goods I am invested in, quite a few companies are actually very fraudy. So there is no harm in accepting that, there is fraud, even if you are invested. That's what I do. And that's what, basically, uh, you know, makes me avoid any big mistakes and so on. So that's my take.
Sir, just allow me 30 seconds to clarify. By any chance, if anyone has any misconceptions, including Jitin sir, that my rant was directed at anything you said, obviously not. You're very polite. What you said actually on IT, I absolutely agree. In fact, most of this agree. Even if I don't agree, doesn't matter. So it was surely not about you. It was about, I was talking about, this, I see a lot of, professional money managers talking down this segment. It was more directed in general, but I fully agree with you. I'm struggling with a lot of, mid cap, small cap, but even if, let's say for a second, I don't agree with you, it was surely not, uh, you know, as a counter to whatever you said.
No.
It was
So as I
more
said,
as a general.
I don't think, because as I've said, I'm not trashed any segment at all. I mean, that is just not my this thing. That I will trash any investing style or anything. I just call it as I see it. And as I said, there are people who will still make money in the sectors which I talked about, because their style could be different, their goals are different, their way of investing is different. They could be nimble, they can enter, they can exit, they can, actually, basically have a stop loss, have a system in place, and so on. So again, different people will have different ways of investing and all that. So I'm not saying that these things will not make money, or SMEs people will not make money or something. I'm definitely not saying that. What I'm saying is that from a value perspective, whatever I say is from a value perspective, and it is applicable for people who, basically do value investing or want to learn value investing. So, as I always say, no method is perfect, and no method is the right method. Any method which works for you is the right method. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, sir.
And sir,
Fully agree. Fully agree. Thank you.
and then Jiten and Sandeep, sir, you guys have been known to me quite a long now, and I can totally say that with great conviction. You guys always respect, in the sense like whatever one framework uses. So there are different ways to make money in the market, and it's always about respecting others' perspective that drives the most democratic space, which is our share market. So Jiten sir, thank you so much for taking out time. It's always pleasure interacting with you, and definitely as and when we get time again, we'll surely have a conversation. So meanwhile, we got one or two speakers, Vikrant and Sachin, and Nikesh. I'll come to you after that. So Vikrant, you can unmute and ask your question, and then we go to Sachin.
Okay. Thank you, Prince. Good evening, everybody. Actually, sir, my question is on the power sector. No, few speakers talked about the optimistic view on the power sector, and I was just reading few things on the power sector that our current capacity installation is almost 460 gigawatts, and our peak demand of projection for the current year of summers is some 260. So there's a big gap. So if somebody can really illustrate with numbers, from where the power sector demand is going to come up. It will be corporate or retail, and also if we have this Pradhan Mantri Yojana of that 1 crore solar installations on the household side. So which will means will be a little, the demand from the households might decrease because we'll have solar installations at home. Basic understanding. So, and capital investments are not happening from the corporate side, right? Because our current capacity utilizations are already, we have not fully capital, across the sectors. So from where do we feel? I know few people talked about data centers and maybe from the chip manufacturing, which is a little long term thing. So if can somebody talk about with numbers, which sectors with the demand they are thinking the demand will come, and Will the demand go up to what projection 300, 350? And what about the current capacity? And we have now PFCs, RECs, IED. Everybody is giving loans on the power sector. तो कितना कैपेसिटी आप बढ़ा लोगे भाई इंस्टॉल मतलब ना इंस्टॉलेशन का 460 तो ऑलरेडी 550 डिमांड उतनी है क्या मतलब दैट वाज माय जस्ट क्वेश्चन सर सो थैंक यू सर इफ somebody can answer on that.
So Sandeep, Rajesh, Amit, would you like to share your input
विक्रांत
on
भैया
that?
पावर सेक्टर का पूछ रहे हैं ना?
Yes sir.
Right.
पावर सेक्टर में सर इतना बड़ा डिमांड है, मतलब आप कोई भी पहले वैल्यूएशन उठा के आप ले लीजिए. अभी पावर में आप पावर जनरेशन पे आइए, पावर जनरेशन में बहुत बड़ा डिमांड है, लॉट ऑफ डिमांड इज देयर. पावर आप ट्रांसमिशन में आइए, मतलब अगेन न्यू आ गया. पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में आइए,
सर मेरे को ना नंबर्स के संग बताइए सर. डिमांड तो मैं वही बता रहा हूँ ना कि ऑलरेडी इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी 460 गीगावाट्स है और पीक डिमांड एज पर पावर मिनिस्ट्री इज गोइंग टू बी 260. ये सब बात व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज राइट प्लस आई
नहीं, अभी आप जो बता रहे फिगर वो कितना टाइम में होने वाले हैं सर? अपन फिगर पे आते हैं. चलो,
क्या बता रहे हैं आप, क्या पूछ रहे हैं?
जो आप बता रहे हो, जो पावर जनरेशन का जो
पीक डिमांड प्रेडिक्टेड है पावर मिनिस्ट्री की 260.
सर डिमांड छोड़िए, जो अपना पावर का जो बताया गया है कि हमको इतना पावर बनाना है, जो पावर पोजीशन बनाए गए अगले 3 साल 5 साल के जो गवर्नमेंट ने दिए, आपके
वही मैं पूछ रहा हूँ सर. आप बताइए ना कितना प्रोजेक्शन किया गया है, व्हाट इज बिकॉज अगर इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी ऑलरेडी 460 है प्लस इतने सारे ऑलरेडी प्रोजेक्ट्स लास्ट ईयर में PFCs and no RECs and IID have already sanctioned loans for और तो आई थिंक मेरे को लग रहा है 4 जो 80 है वो ऑलरेडी शायद 556. तो कितना मतलब पावर डिमांड कहाँ से बढ़ने वाला है भाई? विच सेक्टर्स आर गोइंग टू कंट्रीब्यूट टू दैट पावर डिमांड एंड व्हाई डू वी सच सी अ रोबस्ट परफॉर्मेंस? आप कुछ कॉर्पोरेट तो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हो नहीं रहा है, किसकी कैपेसिटी बढ़ रही है? जस्ट दैट वो डेटा सेंटर्स के बारे में हमने काफी बोला कि डेटा सेंटर्स विल पिक अप द डिमांड. कोई बता सकता है कि कितना होगा या चिप फैसिलिटी में से कितना होगा? मतलब कोई किसी सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक बताइए ना.
अमित जी मैं इस पे ऐड कर दूं नया स्टडी. लास्ट टू वीक्स पहले इनफैक्ट दीपक जी भी आज लिसनिंग मोड में है, एंड दैट डे वी हैड अ वेरी कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिस्कशन विक्रांत अराउंड 2 or maybe 3 weeks back about the same thing, where Deepak Chukhani is an ex-investment banker and I were on the same side of question which you are asking, and Amit Agrawal and Rajesh Singh were trying to explain. So few things even without going into numbers. So what we call is like a electrification theme, right? That theme is only 3-4 year old, and there are 4-5 levers of it, right? Number one lever is oil to electricity. So India is right now at 15-18% of overall energy consumption. Electricity is roughly 15 to 16%. In China that is 25. G8 is at 30. So one, we can easily do 30, which will be a major jump. And two, the entire world will from 30 will probably go to 45-50 in next 10-15 years. That's how this will play. Within that, obviously renewable, but I'll not mix up renewable here because let's only focus on the electricity. Second is within India, since you talked about capacity versus this, I'm sure you are hearing all this like this. There are power cuts in Delhi. Yesterday someone was saying that how can there be a power cut in Delhi during elections, right? That means there is just not enough supply, right? Without even going into numbers, this is plain scuttlebutt, right? Election season में तो कभी भी गवर्नमेंट्स पावर नहीं कट करती हैं, बट उसके बावजूद भी करने पा रही हैं क्योंकि डिमांड मीट नहीं हो रही है. तीसरा जो आपने डेटा सेंटर बोला, जो अभी जेपी मॉर्गन की स्टडी थी कुछ दिन पहले, ये सब मैं ट्वीट करता रहता हूँ, और ट्वीट में मैं क्योंकि ब्लूटिक नहीं हूं तो मेरी मजबूरी होती है कि मैं कुछ उसको 240 या जितने भी वर्ड्स हैं उसमें डालना है तो मैं बुलेट पॉइंट्स में डालने की कोशिश करता हूँ. एंड आई एम ऑन पर्पस नॉट टेकिंग ब्लूटिक बिकॉज ब्लूटिक लेने के बाद मेरे को लगता है कि मैं writing short tweets are tougher than writing a long tweet, right? Because then you can just copy and without even bothering to concise. So this is my way to force myself to write a concise note. So there, this JP Morgan did this study even before the chat GPT boom, right? कि जो यूएस की जो टॉप 4-5 कंपनीज हैं, इनका जो एआई की इनके जो इंजन्स हैं वो कई बड़े अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज से ज्यादा पावर कंज्यूम कर रही हैं. एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट लिटरली लाइक 4-5-10 times more heavier query, right or wrong we can debate कि वर्ल्ड कोस्ट डायरेक्शन में जाना चाहिए या नहीं जाना चाहिए, बट जा रहा है, we all know that, right? So another is this theme. Third is within India, आप देखोगे कि हमारा ऑयल से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मजबूरी है, ऑटोमोबाइल में ऑयल गैस से ईवी पे जाना हमारी मजबूरी है, ठीक है। इसके अलावा क्योंकि हम टीएनडी लॉसेस वगैरह कम करना चाहते हैं, तो ये सारी की सारी जो ग्रिड्स हैं और ट्रांसफॉर्मर्स हैं, ये सब रिले हो रही हैं। तो जब आप पावर की बात कर रहे हो तो शायद आप केवल प्रोडक्शन पे फोकस कर रहे हो, दैट इन सेल्फ इज sorry, space is still going on, right? That in itself is a big thing, but जो ancillaries भी हैं, transmission tower, transformer, etc. तो एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूँ विक्रांत, कल ही, and this is obviously a normal discussion, कल एक कंपनी से मेरी बात हो रही थी for a pre-IPO, and that company is in business for 20 years, etc. And now they are saying they have got orders from Adani, Genus Power, etc. But they don't have capacity to deliver that. They can easily do 5 times, and the question is why Adani cannot do it. Obviously how many things Adani as a group will do, right? So bigger players क्या करते हैं, वो सब सबलेट कर देते हैं। तो आप जब कंपनी से जाके बात करोगे तो उनकी प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं है कि उनके पास डिमांड नहीं है, उनके पास सप्लाई नहीं है, लेकिन इतना हैवी कैपेक्स करने से हर कंपनी डरती है, तो वहां पे रिस्क कैपिटल प्ले आती है। इसीलिए ये जो फंड रेज हो रहे हैं या कैपेसिटी बिल्डअप हो रही है, क्योंकि प्रमोटर कहता है मैंने आज रिस्क लिया, 5 साल के बाद ये डिमांड नहीं रही तो फिर क्या होगा। तो 5 ईयर का प्ले है कि 10 ईयर का प्ले है कि 15 ईयर का प्ले है, दैट इज फॉर एनीबडीज टू गेस। क्या उसका मल्टीपल देना है, वो इस ग्रुप में ऑब्वियसली हम वी कैन डिबेट कि ये 2 साल के बाद खत्म हो जाएगा या 10 साल के बाद खत्म हो जाएगा या 15 साल के बाद खत्म होगा, राइट। बट देन पॉइंट इज, इसको अगर आप हेडलाइन से पकड़ोगे विक्रांत, कि जैसे पिछले 10 साल से, जो मेरा भी एक मतलब वैलिड क्वेश्चन रहा है, क्योंकि पावर सेक्टर में कोई इतना खास पैसा नहीं बना था 2019-20 के। व्हाट इफ वी आर जस्ट गश ऑफ सिप मनी गोइंग इनटू पावर ग्रिड एंड पीएफसी एंड आरईसी। कल भेल का नंबर देखो, कोई नंबर ही नहीं है, देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो ग्रोथ। तो ऐसा तो नहीं कि इंडिया में पावर प्लांट बन रहा है बिना भेल की सप्लाई के बगैर। बट वी हैव टू डिग मोर डीपर टू अंडरस्टैंड कि जो काम हो रहा है किस किस सेक्टर में हो रहा है, उसके नए प्लेयर्स क्या हैं, क्या इमर्जिंग ट्रेंड्स हैं और कहाँ पे ग्रोथ आ रही है। तो इन्वेस्टमेंट इज ए सेपरेट पार्ट, बट हम ये बोलें कि इंडिया में पावर सेक्टर में एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी टेलविंड्स नहीं है, तो वी आर सिंपली शटिंग डाउन आवर आईज। वी नीड टू प्रॉब्ली ओपन अप लिटिल मोर, दैट्स ऑल आई विल से। विक्रांत,
Can I add one point here, just a small point? So विक्रांत, तो आपने नंबर की बात करी था, तो आपको मोटा मोटा बताता हूँ कि जैसे हमारे देश में ना 30 करोड़ लोग ही एसी को एक्सेस कर पाते हैं। तो हम मानते हैं कि भाई जैसे अगर थोड़ा सा डेवलपमेंट आएगा तो 20 करोड़ लोग और एसी कर सकते हैं ना कंज्यूम, ठीक है। तो अगर 20 करोड़ लोग और एसी कंज्यूम करते हैं तो ये 200 गीगावाट की एडिशनल पीक डिमांड चाहिएगी। कैसे, क्या आप बताता हूँ। एक एसी 1 किलोवाट का होता है और 1 करोड़ में 8 जीरो होती है, तो 3 जीरो गई तो बन गया 1 मेगावाट, और 3 जीरो और गई तो बन गया गीगावाट, तो बचे 200 तो आपके पास 200 गीगावाट की के आसपास आपको सिर्फ एसी को 20 करोड़ लोगों को एसी प्रोवाइड करने के लिए 200 गीगावाट की एडिशनल पावर चाहिए। अब इलेक्ट्रिक स्कूटर की बात करते हैं भाई, भविष्य अभी इलेक्ट्रिक स्कूटर काफी स्पीड से आ रहा है। मान लो आगे 20 करोड़ लोगों के पास भी इलेक्ट्रिक स्कूटर होगा, 20 करोड़ इलेक्ट्रिक स्कूटर, उनको चार्ज करने के लिए भी 200 गीगावाट की, तो 400 गीगावाट तो मोटा मोटा आ ही गया। तो अभी तो ये अगर आप इसको ढंग से कैलकुलेट करने बैठोगे तो काफी पावर डिमांड की, और जो संदीप जी ने बताया एआई और वो है, तो काफी, तो आई थिंक ये अभी लाइक इट कुड बी अ वेरी बिग नंबर एंड वी विल बी एंड वी स्टिल आर वेरी अंडर पावर्ड कंट्री। और पर कैपिटा इंडिया की जो पर कैपिटा एनर्जी कंजप्शन है वो तो अभी डेवलप्ड नेशन से बहुत ही कम है ना। तो अभी जो लाइक हमारी जो मार्जिनल सोसाइटी है वो तो उनकी एनर्जी कंजप्शन तो बहुत बहुत मिनिमलिस्टिक है, तो अभी काफी स्कोप है इस दिशा में। और दूसरा क्या है कि पावर जो यूनिट्स हैं उनकी भी वो होता है ना, वो उनकी भी लाइफ टाइम, सोलर का भी 25 साल ही काम करेगा ना, 25 साल के बाद तो उसकी कम होती जाएगी। और जो थर्मल है वो भी इतने टाइम ही काम करते हैं, तो जो हमने इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी है वो भी डेप्रिशिएट हो रही है, तो उसको भी रिप्लेसमेंट करना है आपको और न्यू भी ऐड करनी है, तो काफी स्कोप है यार। दैट्स इट।
तो बेसिकली यू आर सेइंग इज दैट इट्स अ लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी, 15 ईयर 10 ईयर 15 ईयर, क्योंकि वो जो 20 करोड़ के नंबर है वो तो सब इट विल नॉट कम नो इन नेक्स्ट 2 ईयर्स और 5 ईयर्स, मतलब इट्स अ लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी।
या ऑब्वियसली, तो मैं हमेशा बोलता हूँ फिलोसॉफिकली आप देखो तो पावर, एक सिविलाइजेशन के लिए पावर सबसे बेसिक नीड है। हमारे पूर्वज आग जलाते थे, हम अभी और उससे एडवांस करें, हमारे जो आने वाले बच्चे होंगे उन और एडवांस पावर यूज कर रहे होंगे, तो पावर तो एक सिविलाइजेशन। और अगर कल को हमने एलियन ढूंढे ना, तो उनकी जो पावर की नीड होगी हमसे एडवांस होगी। अगर कोई सिविलाइजेशन हमसे ज्यादा एडवांस मिलेगी ना अगर दूसरे प्लेनेट पे, तो उनकी पावर की जो कैपेसिटी होगी वो हमसे ज्यादा एडवांस टाइप की होगी। तो ये तो लॉन्ग टर्म कहे तो ये तो ह्यूमन पावर इज एवरीथिंग, राइट।
विक्रांत, ये लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी आप कैसे बोल रहे हो? लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी है ये?
नहीं, वो जो नंबर्स बता रहे थे ना,
नंबर सुनिए बता दो।
विक्रांत,
अच्छा हाँ,
लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी क्या होती है, मतलब व्हाट इज लॉन्ग टर्म? एक पावर प्लांट बनाने में कितना टाइम लगता है बताइए, आप नंबर की बात कर रहे हैं. हाउ मच टाइम डज इट टेक टू मेक वन पावर प्लांट? न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट 10 साल में बनता है, अगर आप सही मायने में अगर प्रॉपर तरीके से उसकी एग्जीक्यूशन करोगे. 10 साल लगते हैं उसको बनाने में. एक विंड पावर प्लांट लगाने में 2 से 2.5-3 साल लगते हैं अगर प्रॉपर वे में एग्जीक्यूशन होता है. एक सोलर प्लांट लगाने में 6 से 12 महीने लगते हैं अगर प्रॉपर तरीके से एग्जीक्यूशन होता है. राइट. अगर आपको 10 साल के बाद की इलेक्ट्रिसिटी डिमांड को मीट करना है तो आपको आज सोचना पड़ेगा, ना कि 10 साल के बाद सोचना पड़ेगा. आप बोल रहे हैं 426 गीगावाट की कैपेसिटी है, 260 गीगावाट का पीक डिमांड है. तो आपने ये देखा है, जब आपने नंबर देखा है 426 गीगावाट का नंबर आप लेकर आए हैं, उसमें देखा आपने कितनी, उसमें उसका 426 का क्या ब्रेकअप है? कोल की कैपेसिटी कितने ऑपरेटिंग रेट पे चल रही है, सोलर की कैपेसिटी कितने ऑपरेटिंग रेट पे चल रही है. 426 में से 140-45 गीगावाट और मे बी आई थिंक 180 गीगावाट तो आपका रिन्यूएबल कैपेसिटी है, जो कि आपका 20 से 25% के लोड फैक्टर पे चलता है. सो अगर नंबर आप जहां पे देखते हैं तो डिग डीपर एंड देन कम विद द फुल डिटेल कि भैया मैंने पूरा जम के एनालिसिस किया है, एंड देन कम बॉम्बार्डिंग कि भैया मुझे तो कोई डिमांड लगती नहीं.
कोई बॉम्बार्ड नहीं किया, मैंने सिर्फ व्यू पूछा बिकॉज
नहीं, your comment was not proper when you asked for this. So sorry to say that. Maybe I took it.
नहीं सर, मैंने जो पहले स्पीकर्स ने बोला उन्होंने थोड़ा जनरल बात किया.
विक्रांत, इसको थोड़ा सा
बॉम्बार्ड नहीं किया, तो मैं सिर्फ अपनी बढ़ाने के लिए बात.
चलिए मैं आई एम जस्ट, सो आप अभी
एवरीवन प्लीज
अभी ये देखो, ये वाला प्रिंस जी का जो ये स्पेस है हर दूसरे तीसरे दिन होता है. आप रिसर्च करिए. We will answer this question again, right? We'll take this question again. Okay. So do more deeper research. Look at what are the drivers of demand. Why we need to prepare today for 10 years from now. So वो सब चीजें आप स्टडी करिए कि डिमांड आज क्यों है. लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी क्या होती है? लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी वो होती है जो जाके 10 साल बाद आएगी. हाइड्रोजन इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी. जो अभी आज की डेट में हम हाइड्रोजन कर रहे हैं, वो उसकी कमर्शियल वायबिलिटी वगैरह सारी चीजें हैं, वो उसको बोल सकते हैं आप लॉन्ग टर्म स्टोरी है. इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज a today's story, tomorrow's story and day after tomorrow's story. So please do a deep research and then come back. So we'll be happy to, I think people will be happy to answer your questions when you have done a deep analysis. Probably you will come with the answer yourself.
ठीक है सर, ठीक है सर.
Thanks, Vikrant. And the idea was like, obviously, those numbers will be achieved in a number of years. You are right on that. But the aspect was saying that if the capacity has to be built, that has to be done well in advance. So probably that has to be kept in mind. And obviously, how the things are materializing and how that is flowing to the cash flows of the company will also be need to be seen when it comes to investing. Sure. So we have plenty of other speakers. We'll go to them.
ने हाथ खड़ा किया, मे बी अमित जी कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं. अमित जी बोलिए.
मेरा भी वही पॉइंट था कि जो पीएलएफ है वो बहुत वेरी करता है. अभी जो इन्होंने बोला कि आपने उसका आंसर कर दिया बेसिकली. मैं भी वही बोलने वाला था, पीएलएफ वाला.
ओके सर. सो विक्रांत जी, आपके लिए एक टास्क है. सो आप एक बार करिए डीप रिसर्च, देन आल्सो एनलाइटन अस एज वेल. सो विद योर फाइंडिंग एंड विल बी हैप्पी टू हियर योर व्यू एज वेल. सो सॉरी टू गिव यू सम टास्क.
अरे नो प्रॉब्लम सर.
Okay. And like guys, for our audience and speakers as well, I always in utmost honesty try to keep the forum. I mean, what we say, tension free, stress free, and controversy free, right?
Very cordial, very cordial.
No, it's
so the idea is to respect differentiating views. It is not mandatory that everybody is having same kind of views, or at times we believe the words could be hard because that is the need of the hour. But again, the intent is always right, and that should be respected by everyone around. Yeah. With that, I move on to speaker Sachin. Sachin ji has been waiting quite a while.
Sir, I think my query is already covered. I think I was already about to mention that PLF factor, which is already covered. Thank you.
Thanks, Sachin. Srinivas. Srinivas, you are still on mute. I guess some issue with his. So I think more or less there are many requests I need to see. Okay, let me try to add few. And so meanwhile, Sandeep ji, anything more to?
नहीं प्रिंस, because आपका स्पेस रिकॉर्डेड रहता है, तो let me put it on record. first, earlier my tone was not right. So no matter what we say, we shouldn't sound irritated, right? So I want to apologize to all listeners. And even I now get a feeling within a lag of another 2 minutes that by accidental perception would have become that it was because what Jatin ji said, and I said just after that, even though these were like delinked and I made it very clear, I'm again making it clear so that anybody whoever even listens it later on, let's say as a recorded session, gets that I was talking about more of a, broader thing rather than what is being discussed in this space. That is one. Second is, as Prince is saying, see, beauty is, you discuss Infosys, TCS, any stock, right? And you bring 5, 10 knowledgeable people. I'm not even claiming I'm knowledgeable. I'm just, mostly borrowed wisdom. But let's say knowledgeable people come and obviously they will have different views. And that's the beauty. I mean, if we are only here to tell what we already feel and know, then there is no point of coming on onto the space, right? If you're not ready to listen to others. So that point is obviously well understood, well taken. And Prince, you always conduct these sessions very nicely, professionally, and that's why we are very comfortable coming to your spaces. But more of, I'll say a little slip of conduct from my side. So I wanted to apologize for that.
No worries. And definitely, Sandeep bhai, the first check which has been to my mind is to filter on one front that the intent of the person should not be wrong. Rest everything is well taken care of. And your point was right. So nothing to stretch on that. Thank you so much for that.
And actually,
So
just
we
to
got
wait, see, the problem is also where we stand, right? An individual investor, a UHNI, an HNI, a retail. Within retail, you can be value, you can be growth, you can be bullish on something else. But even structurally, their positionings are very, very different, right? When you are managing client money, big money, your style has a lot of constraints, which individual investors don't have who do direct investing. So even if you bring two well-meaning people on same platform purely because one is playing cricket, another is playing hockey, there is no way a convergence will happen. So that is also a challenge which we probably need to appreciate, that a direct investing by a investor versus a professional management, it's just like two different games, right? So obviously ideas will never converge.
100%. And meanwhile, let me take some opportunity to do marketing for myself. यार थोड़ा YouTube को support करो because I am also feeling that a lot of effort goes into that. And I have also पहले तो नहीं था Telegram मैंने इसलिए बनाया so that I can place all the video links at one place or people keep on posting because the Twitter algorithm is as such. Most of the time the notifications are missed by people. So after that, let's see few more speakers. Shella, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. You can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you so much, Prince sir. I am still learning about the market and the trends going on. I just wanted to know about the PSU stocks, during the election time, how it will go, especially this Cochin National Bank stocks. So about this, I want to know. And another question is, when any company is about to, have their own IPOs like OYO, and बीच में वो कभी आ रहे हैं कभी जा रहे हैं या कभी एप्लीकेशंस अपने पीछे ले रहे हैं, so सर ऐसी सिचुएशन में किसी कंपनी पे भरोसा करना, will it be good or not? These are my two questions. Kindly guide me.
So Amit and Rajesh ji, if you have any inputs, would love to hear that out. And Sandeep ji dropped, so I also request Sandeep for that. And as far as PSU space is concerned, obviously the space as a whole, the perception has changed and the valuations accordingly, and that has done well. So obviously, if the that is linked to the current government, then obviously if the election results are in favor of the present government, so I see more rally in that space. But again, that has to be seen with a the caveat is the valuation needs to be seen with the historical valuation. So you can give some premium, but you have to draw a line at certain point in time. And on the IPO thing, there are more learned people, they'll guide you. But again, whenever the company wishes to come with an IPO, they want to, obviously everybody wants to make money, right? So they want to come at a valuation or a market situation wherein they get the best of the valuations, right? So that could be one potential reason. There could be other angles to it, which I think Amit or Rajesh ji, and even if Sandeep also joins, they throw more light to that. Rajesh ji?
I think I think I'm not a PSU fan, maybe because of its past, but I think I don't cover the PSU market in general as well. But speaking with the non-PSU market segment, so they deal with the government authorities and government department of various PSU companies. So one message is definitely clear that there is definitely a big push from the government side to improve efficiency across the PSU market segment, specifically in the way they used to operate and the way they are operating. So, for example, one company mentioned that earlier they used to get payments say in 90 days, 80 days. Now PSUs are after their life to make payment in time and also get the capex execution done in time as well. So there is definitely a big push from the government side, and the efficiency levels of PSUs have improved substantially. Maybe Amit ji can or maybe Sandeep ji can highlight. That is the only knowledge I have about the PSU companies from my side.
Actually, PSU promoted by PM and HM also. PM ने तो संसद में बोला है कि PSU ले लीजिए. What changed in the last few years? It's a work culture and some sort of transparency. तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी हुआ तो मतलब वर्क कल्चर थोड़ा इम्प्रूव हुआ, लाइक टेंडरिंग सिस्टम इम्प्रूव्ड अ lot of online procurements, sales, and everything. A lot of things come streamlined in a transparent manner, and a lot of things, process removed out. So you can say a lot of leakage were, sort out. So going forward, PSUs will, so a lot of health improvement we will see. And PSU we can see ki as a whole PSU, some sort of like in a defense PSU, lot of opportunity. There are still many PSUs which are lacking. You will see if you go just say PSU. I can tell you around 100 companies, PSU companies, that are not performing, and they will not perform it also. So just PSU doesn't work. PSU with with big, reasonably big opportunity, reasonably good things, they will do well. That for sure. And we come to again your OYO thing. So it's totally, I feel the PE world is totally different. How they value, how they fund, how value goes 60% down, 60% up. It's out of mind. Totally out of mind. So nobody can, say other than themselves. Nobody can.
Prince, I'll probably just give my take on this. So first of all, there are a few parameters by which we can try to evaluate companies which are government owned, number one, and companies which are dealing with government's spending, right? So historically, any company which is government owned always traded at much, much lower multiples than private sector, purely because government enterprises do not work on sole profit motives. That's simple thumb rule, right? That's why you go back to history, Reagan era in US or Margaret Thatcher era in 1980s in UK or anywhere. I mean, the standard template of Chicago School of Economics guys, whenever they went to any socialist country or communist country, was privatization, right? It was a blind theme. You basically convert a PSU, a public sector unit, into a private sector unit. There is a huge wealth creation purely because the blind assumption is government sector is not for sole profit motive the moment you make it a private sector. So in general, there are very valid, well discovered, well articulated, and solid reasons of why government companies should never trade at same multiples as private sector, right? Then there are sector specific issues. I think when we talk about in India, PSU or CPSE ETF, there are two broad buckets and then there are smaller buckets. One is obviously PSU banks, जो प्राइवेटाइजेशन इंदिरा गांधी जी के समय में हुआ था. उसके बाद से वो धीरे धीरे इनडायरेक्ट प्राइवेट बैंक्स को गवर्नमेंट बनाया था इंदिरा गांधी जी ने, और वो वापस धीरे धीरे प्राइवेट सेक्टर को दिया जा रहा है. कैसे दिया जा रहा है? क्योंकि इंडिया में कोई भी एक आईडीबीआई बैंक को गवर्नमेंट 6 साल से नहीं बेच पा रही है. तो इसके लिए आप क्रिपिंग प्राइवेटाइजेशन करते हो, वन बाय वन. अगर आप सेक्टर्स पकड़ो, बैंक्स में आज से 15 साल या 12 साल पहले प्राइवेट सेक्टर का जो क्रेडिट ग्रोथ में या एयूएम में जो भी कह लीजिए लोन में आपका मार्केट शेयर 25% था, वो 50% है। 15 years के बाद शायद 75% होगा. There is no way PSUs can beat private sectors purely because they are not as constrained as a government sector bank will be, क्योंकि उनको जाना पड़ेगा छोटी छोटी जगहों पे, CSR सेंस में करना पड़ेगा, अनहेल्दी बैंक ब्रांचेस खोलनी पड़ेंगी. और एक सिंपल सा आप चैनल चेक कर लीजिए, आप चले जाइए आंख मूंद करके, एंड आई ऑलवेज डू दिस मेंटल एक्सरसाइज. It's very easy to get carried away when you're only investing 1 lakh rupees. But let's say, by just as a thought experiment, you have 50,000 crore rupees in your hand. Will you buy an IndusInd Bank or an HDFC or a Kotak, or will you buy this thing, and without even looking into the valuations, right? So obviously valuation matters, right? But that doesn't mean कि दोनों banks same book value पे trade करें. Right now what is happening is SBI after long time is inching closer towards HDFC, Kotak and ICICI, right? And SBI is still reporting numbers which are in mid-teens. Why? Because there is a huge gush of retail money which simply thinks anything which is government should probably trade. Another example, you can take Petronet LNG, right? Major problems, major linkages, dependent on gas prices. No, fully owned by FIIs or promoters. Promoters are another PSUs. But suddenly retail pegged it like 3 months back, said कि अरे ये PSU नहीं भागा है, चलो इसको भगाते हैं. So that kind of investing will obviously be a problem. But India में क्या हो रहा है? क्योंकि पॉलिटिकल कंटिन्यूटी एज्यूम्ड है, गवर्नेंस स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑफ इन पीएसयूज के काफी इंप्रूव हो गए हैं, तो जितना बड़ा गैप था प्राइवेट वर्सेस गवर्नमेंट का, लेट्स से 4 times का था, वो मिटिगेट होकर के अब केवल लेट्स से 30-40% डिस्काउंट होगा. अब इसके बाद आप डिबेट कर सकते हो, कोई ये कह सकता है कि नहीं, मोदी जी इज द बेस्ट प्रमोटर इन इंडिया, सो यू वांट a PSU bank to a private bank to trade at a higher multiple than private bank. I mean, that's anybody's debate. We can spend years and still not agree. I personally don't agree with that view. I think this PSU rally is pretty much over on the sectors where private sector is already present. Now come to the sectors where there is no private sector. So India में अगर किसी को डिफेंस में करना है, आज की डेट में 2019 में क्या था, जैसे ही आपने प्राइवेट सेक्टर के साथ करने की कोशिश की, आपको तुरंत पॉलिटिकल स्कैम हो जाता है. तो इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट के पास 2 ही 3 ऑप्शन बचते हैं, या तो वो खुद करे, जिसका कोई एंड नहीं है, कितना कैपेक्स करेगी, कितना अपनी कंपनी से करवाएगी, तो फिर प्राइवेटाइजेशन कैसे होगा, और या फिर वो टाटा से करे या एलएनटी से करे, जो कि नॉन कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल नेम है, बट उसकी भी एक लिमिट है कैपेसिटी की. तो जो भी सेक्टर जहां पे प्राइवेट सेक्टर को क्लियर कट प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी नहीं है, हिस्टोरिकली वो सारा रिसर्च या जो थ्रस्ट है वो हमेशा गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग से आता है. यूएस में जितना भी इकोनॉमिक रिसर्च होता है, कमर्शियल रिसर्च इन एनी सेक्टर इज ऑलवेज गवर्नमेंट फंडेड, एनी सेक्टर, नॉट ओनली इन डिफेंस, अक्रॉस सेक्टर्स. सेमीकंडक्टर में जो टॉप एंड रिसर्च होगा इंडस्ट्री में, उसकी फंडिंग गवर्नमेंट से आ रही होगी. तो हमारे यहाँ भी गवर्नमेंट का माइंडसेट वैसा हो गया है, इसीलिए आपको एचएल में, बीएल में भयानक टेलमेंट दिख रही है. तो उस तरह के पॉकेट्स में, क्योंकि प्राइवेट कंपटीशन हमेशा लगाड़ रहेगा, डीआरडीओ के लिए नो ब्रेनर है, कोई कंट्रोवर्सी नहीं होगी ना. उठा के आप एचएल को कुछ ऑर्डर दे दो, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, कोई आके नहीं पूछेगा. आपने अचानक से ऑर्डर उठा करके किसी को दे दिया, प्राइवेट प्लेयर को, अदानी को, अंबानी को या किसी को, तो उसमें 1000 सवाल पूछेंगे कि यहाँ क्यों नहीं दिया, वहां क्यों नहीं दिया, राइट. सो उस तरीके के एंगल से वो सेक्टर्स आप पकड़ लीजिए जहां पे प्राइवेट कंपटीशन नहीं है और गवर्नमेंट का मेजर फोकस है. केस इन पॉइंट डिफेंस, राइट. अब डिफेंस में क्या है कि हम 25 साल के बाद पहली बार हम यूनिपोलर से मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड बन रहे हैं. तो जो डिफेंस एक्सपेंडिचर परसेंटेज ऑफ जीडीपी हैज ड्रॉप डाउन टू लेट्स से 1-2%, is slowly inching towards 3-4%. That's a major delta. Second thing is obviously you want multiple sources. Within that, India इसको फॉरेन पॉलिसी टूल की तरीके से भी यूज कर रही है. जहां जहां भी मोदी जी जाते हैं, बोलते हैं ये सस्ती वाली मिसाइल ले लो, तुमको अमेरिका नहीं दे रहा है, हमसे ले लो, राइट, ये वाला प्लेन ले लो. तो गवर्नमेंट का बहुत मेजर थ्रस्ट है. उन सेक्टर में वैल्यूएशंस ऑब्वियसली बिल्कुल क्रेजी रहेंगे, सस्टेन रहेंगे. बट जिन सेक्टर्स में भी प्राइवेट सेक्टर ऑलरेडी बहुत प्रेजेंट है, जस्ट बिकॉज वो पीएसयू है, आंख मूंद करके मत बाई करिए. दैट्स माई व्यू. ऑब्वियसली डिफरेंट पीपल विल हैव डिफरेंट व्यूज.
Thanks, Sandeep. I hope it greatly helped her get answers to her question.
Yeah,
So next is, yeah, anything more?
yeah. Thank you so much, Prince, Amit, and Sandeep ji, for clarifying my doubts.
Thank you. Shashi Anand, you can go next and then just.
हेलो. पहले मैं 1 मिनट बोलना चाहूंगा जो भी मैंने अभी आधे घंटे में समझा. फर्स्ट टू साइला's क्वेश्चन, आई डू लॉट ऑफ स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टिंग. ओयो के बारे में अगर आप गूगल करोगे तो वो जो आना जाना चल रहा है, सेबी ने एक बार उनको कुछ क्लॉजेस मांग लिए थे. सेबी डजंट अंडरस्टैंड दीज बिजनेस मॉडल वे बेटर, जैसे बाकी सारे बिजनेस मॉडल्स. स्टार्टअप्स में ये दिक्कत आती है. ट्रू एंड फोर्स काफी चल रहा था, उनकी जो फंडिंग थी, जो उनका वॉर चेस्ट था, दे आर नॉट येट प्रॉफिटेबल, सो दैट हैज ड्राइड. रिसेंटली एक 10-15 दिन पहले से दे आर इन मार्केट एंड दे आर trying to raise checks. Even they are accepting 1 million as a क्या बोलते हैं check on their cap table. That's strange for a company which was valued $10 billion at one point in time. जब मासा साहब का पैसा आ रहा था तब ये अलग ही उसमें I'll not call it fraud, जो भी उन्होंने वैल्यूएशन और जैसे भी अपने थॉट प्रोसेस से दिया था. But do some research on search of Google, will get to know lot more about Oyo कि उनके साथ क्या चल रहा है. For me, I'll try and avoid that. Lot of अगर आप बैंगलोर में किसी एक अच्छी पॉश सोसाइटी में जाओगे, बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप जिन्होंने 400 मिलियन 500 मिलियन के ऊपर फंडिंग उठाई थी, आज वो लोग जो स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टर्स निकल चुके अपना पैसा निकाल के, उनसे 95% के स्केल डाउन वैल्यूएशन पे अपना फंडिंग ले रहे हैं. अनऑफिशियली ऑफिशियली आप उसको जो भी बोलो, राइट. पब्लिक में ये सब ज्यादा आता नहीं है. मतलब डेली ऑन अ वीकेंड पे जब लोग जैसे पोकर खेलते हैं नाउ, राइट नाउ दे आर काइंड ऑफ डूइंग दिस. सो आई वाज डूइंग लॉट ऑफ स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टिंग. मैंने एक पिछले 6-9 महीने से वापस आ गया हूं इसमें. दूसरा ये संदीप सर का, और जो सर ने दूसरे राज सर थे, उन्होंने बोला, आई थिंक लॉट ऑफ दैट कॉन्वर्सेशन टोन एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट कम्स बिकॉज ऑफ कन्विक्शन दैट दीज गाइज हैव इन एसएमईज. क्योंकि जो जनरल परसेप्शन है मार्केट में कि एसएमई में सारे पता नहीं, आई नॉट वांट टू यूज दैट वर्ड, बट हाँ एलसी यूसी होता है तो लोग पता नहीं क्या है यहाँ पर. कोई भी ऐसे. सो आई जम्प फ्रॉम स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टमेंट टू डायरेक्टली एसएमई. नो मेन बोर्ड, नो स्मॉल कैप, नो मिड कैप, बिकॉज थोड़ा स्टडी करने के बाद समझता है. सो दैट्स 2 cents ऑन जो भी मैंने सुना. मेरा क्वेश्चन था अमित सर से. तो मैंने टीएनडी पे तो लास्ट हफ्ते के उसके बाद काफी रिसर्च किया है अपना. सर रिसाइकलिंग में जो अभी जो भी फ्यूचर देख पा रहा हूं मैं, तो रिसाइकलिंग में कौन से पॉकेट्स में, प्लास्टिक में, टायर में, या जैसे सोलार इतना सारा हो रहा है, ये सारा रिसाइकल होना ही होना है. तो आप कौन से ट्रेंड को ज्यादा बड़ा देखते हैं इन लेट्स से 2-3 years और व्हाटएवर?
देखो, मुझे लगता है कि रिसाइकलिंग भी अब जब इतना सब कुछ क्रिएट हो रहा है तो ऑब्वियसली रिसाइकलिंग होना. भाई आप देखो, ऑलरेडी गवर्नमेंट लेके आ चुकी हो, क्या नाम उसका, क्रेडिट वाला स्कीम है ना, पीआर, क्या नाम उसको, जस्ट नाम थोड़ा स्टिक हो रहा है मेरे को.
एक्सटेंडेड प्रोड्यूसर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी,
ईआरपीएस, ईपीआर. थैंक्स. तो ऑलरेडी ईपीआर लेके आ चुकी है. तो ये आप समझिए टायर पे भी रहेगा, बट जो टायर में काम हो रहा है ना, इंडिया में सारा इंपोर्ट हो रहा है. इंडिया में हम कुछ छोड़ते ही नहीं है जो उसको रिसाइकिल कर पाए. इतना हम लोग कंज्यूम कर लेते हैं, और कंज्यूम कर लेते हैं. प्लास्टिक इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग. एंड सेकेंड इज ई वेस्ट. ई वेस्ट जो आप बोल रहे हो ना, मतलब ई वेस्ट में आ गया, प्लस लॉट्स ऑफ जो अपना इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स हम यूज कर रहे हैं, गैजेट्स है, मोबाइल्स है, कंप्यूटर्स है, टैब्स है, तो उनका काफी बड़ा स्कोप है रिसाइकलिंग का. प्लस जो आप बता रहे हैं प्लास्टिक तो सबसे इनिशियल है, सबसे पहला ही है वो तो. बट जो आगे सबसे मतलब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेस्ट है, इट विल बी ह्यूज. और जो आप बता रहे हैं सोलर वाला, उसका गेम बनेगा आज के 20 साल बाद, 25 साल बाद, क्योंकि जो कैपेसिटी अभी डल रही है बड़ी, तो उसका वेस्ट जनरेट होगा 20 साल 25 साल बाद, अभी नहीं होगा.
सर सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, मेरी जो लिमिटेड समझ है, सोलर काफी दिन से था, और उनकी जो पहले जो सोलर पैनल्स लग रहे थे बहुत स्मॉल स्केल पे, बट उनका एफिशिएंसी बहुत घटिया था, राइट. वो सारा का सारा रिप्लेस होना है. मतलब सोलर पिछले 10 साल से, या मतलब आई मे बी रॉन्ग देयर, काफी दिन से चल रहा है, तो वो सब रिप्लेस होना है. बट लिस्टेड स्पेस में बहुत कम, मतलब नाम नहीं लेना चाहूंगा मैं, पर बहुत कम लोग हैं जो इस पे काम कर रहे हैं. 25 साल वाली जैसे जिस स्पेस पे ये टेक्नोलॉजी बढ़ रही है, आई डोंट सी कि पीक आ गया है. अभी भी सोलर को घुमाना पड़ता है, धोना पड़ता है.
अभी तो स्टार्ट है, नॉट अ पीक, अभी तो स्टार्ट है.
तो सर 25 साल बहुत ज्यादा लग रहा है मुझे कि ये जो आज सोलर लग रहे हैं.
नहीं, 25 साल में पीक पहुंचोगे आप. बड़ा क्वांटिटी नहीं आएगा बॉस, मतलब
स्मॉल क्वांटिटी अभी जो पिछले 10 सालों में अगर आप देखोगे जो इंस्टॉलेशन हुई है इंडिया में, वो इतनी हाई स्केल की इंस्टॉलेशन नहीं हुई है। तो इसलिए अगर किसी को मान लो अपना रिन्यू आपको उसको रिसाइकलिंग का प्लांट भी लगाना है तो उसको स्केल भी चाहिएगा, राइट? तो अभी जो अभी आपको 10 साल पहले सोलर पैनल लगे हैं वो अभी 10 साल और चलेंगे आपके, राइट? तो क्योंकि जनरली 20 साल की एज मानी जाती है, तो उसका जो स्केलेबिलिटी है वो भी देखेंगे। अगर किसी को इन्वेस्ट करना है आज की डेट में रिसाइकलिंग पे, तो स्केलेबिलिटी भी देखेंगे। और बाकी रिसाइकलिंग तो होनी है, क्योंकि जो भी इसमें मिनरल और मटेरियल जो यूज होते हैं दे आर नॉट इन अबंडेंस, सो आपको रिसाइकल तो करना ही पड़ेगा। वो it's just a matter of time कि we will see more investment going into the recyclability of all these product or all the whatever we are using in power segment, whether it's solar or steel और जो कुछ भी आपको डालना है, आपका सोलर सेल में जो यूज करता है सिलिकॉन वगैरह है, वो सब चीजें हैं। तो वो सबका रिसाइकल तो होना ही होना है, मतलब क्योंकि आपका जो भी मेटल है वो सारे शॉर्ट सप्लाई में है। तभी लोग बोल रहे हैं कि भी आपको जो कॉपर इज द नेक्स्ट गोल्ड। तो वो सब चीजें तो आपको रिसाइकलिंग करने से ही थोड़ा सा आपको प्रॉब्लम को सोल्व कर पाएंगे उसको।
सर वो तो मेटल रिसाइकलिंग आई अंडरस्टैंड, और जैसे टायर में सर ने बोला
इसमें क्या है, एक और चीज है जो बताता हूँ आपको कि जितना भी सोलर डलता है ना इंडिया में मोस्टली, उसमें बहुत कुछ होता है, 3P होता है, बैंक फंडिंग होता है। तो वो रिप्लेसमेंट जो है ना बड़ा ट्रिकी है इन बिटवीन। वंस थिंग्स ओवर ना, गेट ओवर ना, तो उसके बाद में आप कुछ भी करो तो आदमी क्या आएगा, भैया आपने चेंज कर दिया, आपका पीपी कैंसिल हो जाएगा, बैंक का आपको अलाउ करेगा नहीं करेगा, देयर लॉट ऑफ हंच। तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि जो इंडिया में सब कंप्लीशन पे काम होंगे, नोबडी विल टेक रिस्क।
और इसमें जस्ट एन एग्जांपल, जो यूरोप है, यूरोप इज द लीडर इन ऑल दिस रिन्यूएबल थिंग, राइट? वेदर इट्स सोलर और इट्स विंड। तो वहां पर विंड तो 20-22 सालों से चल रहा है, सोलर भी काफी टाइम से चल रहा है, बट वहां पर भी जो रीपावरिंग की जो मार्केट है वो अभी इतनी बड़ी नहीं है मार्केट कि हमको हर रोज सुनने को मिले कि ये आपका प्रोजेक्ट रीपावरिंग में जा रहा है। तो वो उसमें टाइम लगता है। जैसे अमित जी ने बोला कि बैंक फंडिंग, देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स व्हिच आर लाइंड अप विद दोज प्रोजेक्ट्स, even if they are old, even if they are not that efficient, even if they are old technology, still there is a lot of bank funding tied with those projects. So you cannot disrupt those projects immediately and start a new or maybe install a new technology, maybe solar panel or new technology wind turbine. Like earlier there used to be wind turbines of say 500 around how much, sir? 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt. Now we are talking about say 10 megawatt, 8 megawatt, 15 megawatt wind turbine. Similarly, solar panel also earlier used to be say 10% efficiency load factor. Now we are talking about 20% efficiency of load factor in terms of the production per megawatt, right? So there are a lot of technology development has taken place in the last so many years, but we are still not replacing the old one because we are able to produce more with the new technology, more with the smaller area. So वो जब उनका लाइफ साइकिल कंप्लीट होगा तभी दे विल कम फॉर रिप्लेसमेंट। उससे पहले भी क्या है कि अगर आपको पूरा का पूरा आपको वायबिलिटी बना के देना पड़ेगा गवर्नमेंट को और इवन बैंक्स को भी, कि अगर हम आज भी इस प्रोजेक्ट को जो कि अगले 10 साल और चलेगा, अगर आज इसको हम कैंसिल करते हैं, देन व्हाट विल बी द इम्पैक्ट ऑन द फंडिंग एंड ऑल दिस थिंग, इवन द सोसाइटी, एवरीथिंग। सो वो जनरली जो यूरोप है, मतलब जस्ट एन एग्जांपल, वी आर आल्सो नॉट दैट एक्सपर्ट कि उसमें रिपावरिंग का कैसे रहेगा। जस्ट एन एग्जांपल, यूरोप बीइंग द लीडर इन रिन्यूएबल टेक्नोलॉजी, there also the repowering demand is not that strong as of now, which would require a substantial increase in investment in the recyclability of all these materials.
अंडरस्टूड।
So it will take some time from that.
सर दूसरा जो टायर का आप लोग मतलब अमित सर ने बोला, तो एक गलती से एक स्टॉक 2-3 दिन पहले 20% के अपर सर्किट में गया, इट ड्रॉज माय आई बॉल्स, XPR करके है। तो उसके नंबर्स जब मैंने देखे तो वो जो थीसिस है कि इंडिया पूरा कंज्यूम कर लेता है, उसके थोड़े से विपरीत थे। मतलब उनके जो बहुत छोटा सा, ऑल्दो द सैंपल साइज इज वेरी स्मॉल, बट स्टिल उसके नंबर्स बहुत ऑफ द रूफ हैं। तो वो जो हमारा क्या बोलते हैं, जो थॉट है कि नहीं हम इंडिया में बहुत कंजम्पशन हो रहा है, चाइना से डंपिंग होता है, वो भी हम कंज्यूम कर लेता है, बट दैट कंपनी इज डूइंग समथिंग। और ये जो बहुत अभी स्मॉल स्केल पे होता है, अनऑर्गेनाइज स्पेस में टायर रिसाइकलिंग हो रही है, जो शायद से कहीं ना कहीं कवर्ड नहीं हो रहा या उसके अराउंड डेटा नहीं है, बट धीरे धीरे, मतलब आई मे बी रॉन्ग, मैंने थोड़ा स्टडी किया इसलिए शायद से वो क्या बोलते हैं बायस आ रहा होगा मेरे में, बट मुझे लगता है टायर का थीम है। अगर किसी ने रिसर्च किया हो तो इफ दे कैन कंट्रीब्यूट।
अभी भी ये है और कंपलसरी किया हुआ है गवर्नमेंट ने कि सबको वो EPR लेना पड़ेगा। अभी रिसेंटली एमआरएफ पे तो शायद पेनल्टी भी लगाया है। हाँ, और काम काफी होना है इसमें।
But do you think
इसमें
it's
कोई दो
too
मत नहीं
early
है।
to kind of मतलब
नो नो नो, नहीं, और ये अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा पॉलिटिंग बिजनेस मतलब है, प्रोसेस भी। हाँ, बहुत पॉलिटिंग है और काफी लोग हैं अनऑर्गेनाइज, बहुत लोग हैं इसमें।
So that's what. So will it shift from organized to unorganized to organized? The policies of government kind of giving that kind of signal ये सब में, but
पॉलिसी ने गवर्नमेंट ने दे रखा ना, अच्छा पॉलिसी दे रखा ना।
बट कुछ सर
बट
टेलबिल्ड टाइप का
आई
दिख
टेल
नहीं
यू
रहा मतलब।
जितने भी जो प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं ना, दे आर इम्पोर्टिंग देयर रॉ मटेरियल मोस्टली।
ओके
हाँ, हार्डली दे आर यूजिंग एनी लोकल मटेरियल।
ओके ओके ओके, क्योंकि वही पॉलिसी के
इंडिया में
बारे
क्या
में
होता
कुछ
है
दिख नहीं रहा था मतलब बहुत छोटा सा वो है, बट पॉलिसी का कुछ इम्पैक्ट किसी कंपनी पे या कोई कुछ करता हुआ दिख नहीं रहा।
बता रहा हूँ ना आपको कि भी उनको EPR खरीदना है, तो EPR खरीदना तो जो कंपनियां चला रही है वो दे आर जनरेटिंग EPR। सिंपल, ये काम हो रहा है अभी।
ओके ओके
Right.
हाँ,
Thank you,
थैंक यू।
Shashi. So there is one question in the comments. I think Sandeep wanted to ask, but he has dropped. So Ravi bhai, I am reading the question. Meanwhile, we'll take your inputs, and then if Sandeep ji joins, so what is the downside risk you see? Retail SIP money coming due to recency bias. What happens when they get a shock? What is the downside possible in next 2-3 years?
सर ये इस क्वेश्चन का तो आंसर क्या ही बोलूं, मतलब मार्केट वोलेटिलिटी है वो रहेगा ही, एंड इट इज अपॉन टू द फंड मैनेजर एंड देयर स्टाइल, यू नो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्टाइल दे प्रैक्टिस, वेदर दे प्रैक्टिस लाइक यू नो वैल्यू। जैसे सर ने अभी कहा सोलर का, रिसाइकल का, जैसे अगर थीम की बात करें तो अगर उसमें यहां से अभी 5-10 साल है अगर, तो like you know, in my opinion, and again taking that whatever our participants have said is completely to the point, then that in itself becomes a very strong proposition to place yourself, to position yourself. हाँ, अगर आपका AB momentum है then your style needs to be different. Downside तो सर even you know कि like you know मतलब कोविड के टाइम पे लगातार सर्किट ब्रेकर्स हिट हुए, एंड देन वही कोविड का बेस अगर आप लोगे तो मार्केट 5-6 गुना ऊपर हो चुका है। तो इसका तो आंसर ये है कि वोलेटिलिटी इज द नेम, यू हैव टू लिव विथ इट।
All right. So, okay, stock trader is one speaker which is left, so he can unmute and ask his question, and then we take rest of the questions. And I'll be moving a few speakers down so that confusion be now, or we can allow more speakers. So please bear with that. Yeah, stock trader.
Sir, I have a small query regarding a specific share. Can I ask?
यार स्टॉक का तो दोस्त रहने दो, क्योंकि वही है ना, फिर व्यूज इन्फ्लुएंस हो जाते हैं। हाँ, कुछ बिजनेस व्यू पे बात करनी है तो यू कैन आस्क। ऐसा मत पूछना यार लेना है
Okay, no,
खरीदना है बेचना है,
I will
वो
not ask. I'm just asking Trust Fintech, about Trust Fintech, whether this business is good, whether it is comparable to NPST, Network People Service Technology, or not.
Anyone from the speakers had gone through this company? This name is new to me, at least. Not sure about others. So,
निकेश
and
के स्पेस में कुछ बहुत कुछ डिस्कस हुआ, निकेश कुछ कर पाएगा।
So like I'm not invested in it, so I also didn't study well. So, but your question is also very complex. You know, like it's not easy to answer, right? You comparing to someone like and so NPST basically जो उनका UPI में जितने भी UPI ट्रांजेक्शन होते हैं उनके वो पाइपलाइंस पर डिजाइन करते हैं। Okay. So and they also create banking system connected with the you know UPI transaction से, तो उनका जो like business है वो correlated है UPI के साथ। Whereas जो Trust Fintech का है, they also provide fintech solution but not like UPI kind of solution but some different one. And they also like they provide like you know like few different solutions, and not that what NPST is, but you know, so and it's hard to compare both, and it's a new company. I mean, so you know, hard to like very like you know forecast. Yeah, so maybe Nirmit is there. Maybe he will be able to say more. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Nirmit, I missed on your name. You were in the pipeline. So you can ask your question. And then Sandeep sir had one question in the, I have DM'd him. So basically we can talk on that. Yeah, Nirmit.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing great, enjoying the volatility in the market. I had a question around the real estate sector actually. So, just wanted to understand, there are so many real estate companies that are launching so many projects and claiming that they are being sold and, whatnot is happening in the real estate space. The rates have also been rising, but I don't know if actual demand is there from the real estate side, from consumers buying or not, because, see, I mean, you can see all these DLFs, hub towns, and so many small organizations, and then you have Aurum PropTech, and then you have this Peninsula Land. But if I see, are we going towards a direction where there'll be too much supply and we fall into a situation where your China and US situation comes to be in terms of in India, or we are still far away from it and there'll be enough demand for, let's say, of course, luxury demand is usually always there. I mean, irrespective of a bear or a bullish market, but the normal mid small level segment, do we still see next 2-3 years the numbers of all these guys keep on going up and they keep on selling? Any ideas if anyone has on this sector? Because this will also, entail towards so many other ancillaries also doing well. From small cable, tile, cement, putty, all those people will have their increased sales. So I just wanted to understand cement, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jiten.
Uh, can I reply to this one, Prince?
Yeah, Ravi, you can, and Jiten sir also raised
हाँ नहीं,
hand.
प्लीज जितेंद्र सर को पहले बोलने दीजिए, फिर मैं आ जाऊंगा लाइन में. हाँ.
No, please, Ravi, go ahead. I will speak later. Yeah.
So, sir, I mean, I have been tracking the real estate sector, and a lot of, story has gone behind what we see today. With regulations like RERA, then demonetization, then, GST rollout, which affects unorganized players, not just in real estate, but also, those who supply building material and all. And as a result of which, there is a very strong trend where, see, on one side, you see the listed big players, they have been gaining market cap. But on the other side, if you see the smaller players, छोटे छोटे जो builders होते थे, उनकी shops बंद हो गई. And there was a strong supply gap created, which was उसका epitome was during COVID when there was no labor supply. As a result of which काम पूरा रुक गया. As a result of which there was a significant gap in the demand and the supply. Second is market is always forward looking. You need to understand that the correlation between luxury housing as well as the propensity to go for a second house with rising per capita income is very, very, very high. To the tunes of, एक जगह मैंने डेटा देखा था 0.83 है ये. So people will definitely go for that. And that is why in that expectation, all this sales figure and everything which we are seeing. Yes, it can be said that in certain cases, in order to prop up the clientele, in order to, make people, to take quick decisions, there can be certain marketing gimmicks which can be used. But that said, real estate cycles are very, they take a lot of time to, turn their curvature. That is from up cycle to down and down cycle to up cycle. Now it has begun that its upward journey, and it should ideally go on for the foreseeable future.
Ravi, I guess some network issue, at least on my part, if not for all.
Yeah, you were
Okay.
just
Is it audible now,
cycle
sir?
has
Yeah, better,
turned
better.
and it's from downward going towards upward. That's where we lost you, I think.
Okay, so that is there. And second, if we are trying to draw parallels with Indian real estate vis-a-vis that one, the one in US or in China for that matter, both are completely two different stories. Like on one hand, in China, real estate was properly used as a tool in order to, project a particular bullishness in the economy. The interest rates were damn too cheap. for Chinese home buyers. That hasn't been the case till date. Second, like in US, you see the entire idea of house buying. That mortgage and home loan, उसके बीच में technical difference होता है. You need to in US, your house is basically like a company. You need to contribute to the equity as market values fluctuate. Whereas in India, it is categorically defined as home loan. आपने एक बार लिया, आपको बस का ईएमआई पे करना है जिसपे इंटरेस्ट रेट फ्लोटिंग रहता है. तो दे आर वेरी डिफरेंट बॉल गेम्स टुगेदर ऑल टुगेदर. एंड दैट सेड, concludingly, I would say that this particular sector, if you see not just the sales figure and you just see the kind of investment bigger players like Godrej, Mahindra Life Spaces, Arvind Life Spaces, DLF, they are making, and all these companies are the companies which have relatively much superior balance sheet. DLF, I think is the only company from North, which was into real estate, which came out of the dry cycle unscathed way. You see, Unitech, it went bust. There are so many chote examples like which went bust. On the other hand, relatively, the bigger South Indian players like this are Shobha, Brigade, Prestige and all, their business verticals are very much diversified. And yeah, one more.
I think you lost
Yeah,
again.
went to mute again.
Okay, no. Okay. Am I audible now, sir?
Yes.
Okay, maybe some problem with my phone only. So, and what I was trying to point out that if you see at the revenue stream of the real estate companies, especially the bigger ones, they have very intelligently diversified into other verticals like, REITs, then commercial properties and all. So, in a lump sum manner, this sector is poised for much stronger and, greater
So
heights
I want
from
to
where
ask
we see it
on
today.
this side parallel also, the commercial real estate is also quite strong in a different story compared to the US commercial real estate where it's in doldrums right now. It's a strong story.
No, so the thing is that if you want to compare commercial real estate of US and India, then you need to compare both at the same stage of growth pedestal. If you look at the commercial real estate in US in 1960s and 70s, that will be a fair comparison with where India is today. That is why I'm saying we cannot compare head on across geographies.
Okay, so the bottom line is real estate in India is poised for growth, and of course we have to be doing our due diligence and selecting out the companies, but definitely there'll be good numbers coming.
Sure thing. See, there are certain things which I call as, creeping growth stories. So I will give you an example. India's per capita consumption is that one third of Philippines. Okay. अभी इंडिया चाइना को सरपास करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, ओनली गॉड नोज. बट फिलीपींस को तो सरपास करना चाहिए ना. ओके. Abhi, just imagine if this thing is true, just imagine the kind of, spillover effect it will have on all the biggest of all possible FMCG companies aap le lo. Because the moment your income increases, the first thing first, you consume quality, you consume, your aspirations, stuff like that. And usi ka in further incremental part will be reflected in the verticals like real estate, asset management companies, wealth management. There is a reason why these companies are suddenly seeing P re-rating in a very strong manner. So that's, what I make out of.
Noted.
Jiten
Thank you.
sir.
Yeah. So I do echo with what Ravi has said. Real estate generally follows a 8 to 10 year cycle. Okay. So we had a very strong 8-9 year cycle from 2000, let's say 4 to 2013 kind of this thing, and then it followed by a 8-year down cycle, and I think cycle turned again in 2021. So there are good chances that, though it might not follow exactly 8 years, it could be 6 years or it could be 10 years also. But looking at that, I don't think there is still at least a few years before the real estate cycle peaks out if you go by the cycle theory. And I fully agree that this sector has become, organized to unorganized to organized, in the sense that, the share of the larger and the branded players has kept on increasing since the advent of RERA. and after demonetization, and I think it will continue to grow. So unorganized to organized shift is real, and I think most of these big guys have improved their balance sheets quite a lot and are very prudent. They are also, the bigger companies are also generating annuity streams along with the residential sales they do and all that. So I'm quite bullish on this sector for at least a few years, and obviously one has to look at individual companies and their valuations. Some companies' valuations are quite high, but at the same time, there are pockets where valuation is reasonable. So one has to obviously deep dive and find those. But as a sector, I think it will do well.
Great, great. This, I
Right,
mean,
sir. And a small request to all the speakers and the participant asking question. Please raise hand so that we know, because there are many. तो किसी को ऐसा ना हो कि I forgot to name that person. So those who want to add or ask that, so they can
So just
raise
to
hand.
add,
Yeah, Ravi, yes,
yeah,
mention.
sorry, just to add that I have a real estate business. We have been developing uh, and basically having real estate practice since 2007. That is when we did our first project. So that is one of the companies we have which does real estate projects, and so in that sense, I do have some experience actually doing this and on the ground. So we took a hiatus. For a few years we did not do any projects when things were bad. So our last project, which we had started in the previous cycle, got over in 2016, and then the next one we launched was in 2021. So for 5 years we did not do anything. So if you follow the cycles as a real estate developer, also chance of you getting trapped is far lower.
that's great. I mean, really, best of luck. You see any challenges in the current scenario, sir? Because you're on hands-on on ground, you see challenges, and I mean, of course, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, you would be, a smaller player, but because that was my understanding. I mean, smaller players also are. Coming into construction back and seeing the demand and being able to sell. So इतना मतलब 4 साल में वही I think you're right, 4 साल तक इतना supply बढ़ेगा, then the downturn will happen. Till then you'll be able to make money in certain sectors. That's it from my side. I mean, thank you so much, guys, and others can ask their questions.
Yeah, Ravi.
So I wanted to just add one point. If one is looking at the real estate sector for investing into a particular in any of the specific company, one can keep a very close eye on legacy business houses in India, because these business houses, in due course of their business, have a very strong, widespread, considerable amount of land bank, which is free of litigation, and with growth of urbanization, those land parcels are, in a way you can say de facto in heart of the city, and as a result of which, whenever they are developed, and they will be developed, because you see, for example, I will quote Raymond here. Despite of all the tamasha which has been going on into the promoter family, the company has gone up in market cap. So the core reason for that is, they have a huge amount of land in Thane, which they are developing. So one should keep an eye on legacy business houses in India, because they are sitting at very pretty amount of land bank. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thanks, Ravi. So, Sandeep, we can take that DM question and then we go to Kaushik, Sumit, and Raz.
Sure. Prince, should I read that question for your...
Yeah, you may please.
I think question was, what is the downside risk, they say, if retail SIP money coming due to recency bias, what happens when they get a shock? What is the downside possible in next 2-3 years? And I think person asking this question is probably asking about all the passive money which is coming into the markets via SIP, and that is where regulators, especially SEBI, were so worried about the froth being built in mid cap and small cap. That's the whole march noise, right? Where all these small cap, mid cap mutual funds were asked to do the stress testing, right? Because there are liquidity risk if suddenly an event happens and retail simply puts the press button, what will happen? So the plans have been made by regulators and mutual fund industry that if such an event happens, how to do orderly exits. Usually you don't imagine such a risk in equity. Prices are essentially delta trades. So we often miss when a stock, I mean, it's very pronounced in illiquid counters where just a maybe half a percentage of market cap trading at 30% below basically reprices the entire asset class, right? Something similar actually happened in credit side also, right? That entire saga where regulators intervened and they said we will not allow exits. We will basically suspend exit and will basically ask AMC to put up a plan like how they want to sell these corporate bonds in next 1 year and 2 years. If I'm not wrong, it happened with Fidelity or the other one. I'm just missing the name. I think this was just after COVID. So such a thing has never happened in equity market, at least to the best of my knowledge, where redemptions were stopped. I'm talking about the liquid equity funds. I'm not talking about a special situation structured style of equity, trigger renewable, auto callables, those kind of products, which are not common in India. Only City does it with some of the HNIs, etc. Those capped collar kind of investments. But pure equity funds have no reason to have the redemptions stopped, etc. So the question is, what happens if that happens? Don't know. I mean, as of now, people are assuming it will never happen. It can always happen. The two interesting take I want to add, Prince, here. One, the equity ownership in India peaked in 1992 at the peak of Harshad Mehta scam, and it never touched that number till 2008. So good 16 years, liberalization happened. People became more educated. People started learning about markets, etc. The stock market was doing very good. But equity ownership as in household level never reached those levels for another 16, 17 years. Another thing is we are a saver country, right? So like China, we save a lot. And this valuation froth, which we keep on talking about in markets, is also happening because government has done a massive capital controls. So we are not allowed to invest globally. I mean, that small exposure we are trying to take via, and I'm talking about retail money, right? I'm not talking about the people who have luxury to have, USD assets, USD accounts, etc. I'm talking about the simple retail money which only wants to take an INR exposure, but foreign assets. So those mutual funds have a cap, right? So if India basically allows that, probably the valuation multiple will suppress. And I don't think government is trying to do a China style kind of a valuation call, don't want markets to fall, etc. It's just a simply FX problem. Government cannot allow another, let's say 50 billion, 100 billion in a year going out investing in, let's say European market, US markets, etc. purely because people have become much smarter, right? So because of that capital control and because more and more people coming into markets, naturally more money chasing less number of stocks. So I also in my mind think of it as reversal of East India Company kind of a colonization. So we are taking back ownership from FIIs. And who are these FIIs? They are representative of the countries which are not savers. They are consumers, right? They don't have surplus cash. So their pension funds, their mutual funds, etc. coming to Indian markets. But on a net basis, we as a uh, country save more, right? So we are the bigger investor as a percentage of our incomes than any of these G8 countries. So ideally, next 10, 20 years kind of a trend will be Indian ownership of financial assets will grow within Indian market as well as a global level. But till that kind of a full leverage allowed, I don't think there is a solution for this gridlock. And this has a virtuous or I'll say vicious cycle. More money chases a select number of stocks, more stock prices goes up, more it basically feeds into this dumb assumption that mutual fund and small cap mutual funds will continue to give 25% even if earnings don't grow that much, even if India's nominal GDP will probably grow next 10 years at 11%, lower teens purely because inflations are much moderate now. So I don't know when will it happen. Can it happen? Regulators are saying yes, it can always happen, right? So never say never in markets.
Right, Sandeep. Jiten sir, anything you want to add on this?
Sorry, I didn't get the context, so I will refrain from this because I think I was not there, so I have no idea.
So, Sandeep sir, can you tell the gist of the question so that
So Jiten sir, question was this SIP money which is flowing into Indian markets, what if it suddenly stops? I mean, retail gets a shock. Let's say Nifty cracks by 10-20%. Indian market has been buy on the dip kind of a market. Retail basically loads even more every time markets goes down, right? Last 3-4 years. But the cycle can always break, right? If there is a bigger shock. So if that happens, what will happen kind of a thing. So this was very close to what SEBI was doing as a thought experiment or as a contingency planning 2 months back, where they asked specifically small cap, mid caps to do stress testing of their portfolio on liquidity. So basically, question was around that line.
Yeah. So I think SIP money will not stop. I mean, it will change color in the sense that I think in 1819 all the SIP money was coming in large caps and flexi caps, most of which are essentially large caps. And post that, a lot of money started coming into small caps and all that. So that kind of changes will keep on happening. But I don't think SIP money will stop unless there is a prolonged correction of, let's say, I think at least kind of 2 year, 1.5 to 2 year kind of correction or a bear market or something. That's when, I think the SIP money can reduce. Now, let's say we take a base of 20K, which is happening right now. I think before it comes to 10K, I think it will go first to 30K is what I think. So when 30K is a base, then, there could be a fall, let's say back to 20K. Something like that can happen, but I don't think it is stopping. And SIPs will continue, I think. So in that sense, this asset management companies will continue to grow, the wealth companies will continue to grow. Unfortunate for us is that, I do like that sector, but then a lot of it is already priced in, many years of growth is already priced in. So these are the companies one can have on radar, and whenever there is a meaningful correction, I think these are the companies to look at. I am very positive on the sector, but then struggling to find ideas with value.
Maybe just I would like to add something on this. So when we are saying that SIP money could stop, right? So why people want to invest in equity market? The first fundamental reason for investing in equity market is that people would like to beat the inflation, right? When you talk about FD returns, we are talking about 7%, 7.5% FD return. On top of that, you have like 30% kind of income tax as well. So when we are saying that people want to invest in equity market for better returns, right? So if you are assuming or visualizing a scenario where you are thinking that, okay, the economy is going to go into distress, right? Nothing is going to grow. So what kind of interest you are going to earn on your fixed deposit returns, right? So that also is a factor which people usually think about when they take the decision for whether they want to invest in equity market or whether they want to continue with the FD. For example, when this COVID happened, right? That time there was so much fear on the street. Even I also shifted some money from equity to FD or bonds. That was probably the bad decision, I would say, but still happy with what I have today. So people definitely take those decisions, and maybe I think maybe I don't have that long dated memory. I think the bearish market, what is the, maybe any other learned people here can also tell us, like, what is the longest duration of a bear market in India so far? So if you see that the longest duration of a bear market, maybe not that great in my memory, as per memory, but maybe other people can correct me. So the bearish shocks are usually quite severe and quite fast, and then the bulls basically play for a long time in the market, right? They have the longer duration of play. So they play for 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, even 20 years, right? Bears play for 1 month, 2 months, or maybe 3 months, or maybe 1 year. So things will definitely come back. And when we talk about a distress situation, then where the interest rate would go, definitely the safety of money definitely becomes paramount. But yeah, assuming a scenario where the SIP money will stop is unlikely to happen in my view.
All right. So Kaushik, you were there. So any quick inputs or any questions at your end?
Yes, yes,
And then we'll
Prince.
go to Sumit and Raj.
Hi. Someone had an question on the real estate, right? Couple of updates on that, and I have a question for myself. So I actually belong to an legacy business of real estate. So we are actually suppliers of sand and metal and hollow blocks and everything. So cost of production of these units, right, has been increased more than 20-25%. So it has been actually passed on to the clients. If you can see, when the cost is being passed on to the client and end consumer is facing the cost, that means that the sector has been turned around. So this is something an interesting observations you can have a look at. But again, I have a company where we have invested in since 2018 or something. So if you see today's market cap also, it is not even equivalent to the one of the land that they have it in Mumbai. If you even consider the bare municipal corporation land value also, that value equal to market cap is way different. So you will still get it at a discounted prices. And additionally, the sales, whatever the company does, and the PAT, whatever they do, is an free capital that you get into them. So that's a small update on the real estate. And I have a question over here. If anyone can help me out understanding, can I understand which are the best data center companies that to be looked at, or like how an investor should look at as a data center industry? Is any update? I would love to take it.
Okay. So Jiten sir, Sandeep bhai, any one of you have any thoughts around this question or?
Prince, I have very superficial knowledge on that, so I'll skip that question. I mean, I know the names, but don't know enough to say anything.
Not more
So
about names,
Kaushik,
if it is possible, about the business model. As an investor, what should I parameters that I need to look at, like what it happens, or like how the business model works about?
लिस्टेड स्पेस में तो देखो डेटा सेंटर में एक ही प्लेयर है, अडानी एंटरप्राइजेस. दे आर डूइंग लॉट ऑफ वर्क ऑन काफी बिग स्केल पे कर रहे हैं. तो लिस्टेड स्पेस में तो मुझे जो दिख रहा है वो एक ही दिख रहा है डेटा सेंटर में. एलाइड इंडस्ट्री बहुत सारी है, बहुत है.
Other people also in listed states, let's say, I mean, Anant Raj and all that, but one particular thing that I've seen is the way that they say the centers are in terms of megawatts, not in terms of racks or servers or GPUs and all that. So even I have very superficial knowledge, but just putting it out. Yeah.
So,
Jiten sir, any idea for you that you have looked at any company or something?
No, yeah, not in that sector. I have not been able to zero in on anything. One of the names mentioned, again, is out of scope for me in that sense that I would not invest there. So I'll pass.
So there was a very nice space by Prince, and there is a YouTube recording of it, like data chain, value chain. I get to learn a lot from this space. I think one of the best discussion or like very concise information in 1 hour. So I highly recommend. Yeah, but it's a very big topic, so you can watch that.
Right. So Sumit and then Raj and then for Dharmaj or sorry. Yeah, Sumit, you can go first.
Yeah, thank you, Prince, for giving the opportunity. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So my question is more about creating or building a good portfolio. When I say portfolio, so basically it's about getting to know the sectors, like sectors. So I am a new investor. I'm in less than a year, and I get into some of your podcast and all, and I mean the power sector I really like that sector, and there's a lot to study about it and all, and there is a lot of there are a lot of proxies around that area, and I mean you can put your hands anywhere and you can invest that, so that is fine. But what I afraid after a point of time कि मेरा पोर्टफोलियो मतलब वो कंसोलिडेट हो रहा है, मतलब वो सिर्फ एक ही एरिया को कर रहा है क्योंकि मुझे वही समझ में आ रहा है. So basically my question here is how do I enhance my area of expertise, or let me not say expertise because nobody is expert here, but how do I what are the ways to to increase or enhance your area of competence. Maybe let's say, see, apart from the power, I can little bit think of some because I am from the technical background, so I little bit get into the some of your software IT technologies and all that. But apart from that, if I do have to get my interest on, or if I wanted to understand other sectors, what are the ways to do that? So just to give you one example, I tried to get into the pharma, but honestly speaking, मेरे सिर के ऊपर से गया. I really don't understand it. I know here संदीप भाई भी हैं, और वो सजल सर के भी काफी पॉडकास्ट है. मुझे एरिया काफी अच्छा लगा, मतलब सुनते हुए अच्छा लगता है, लेकिन अभी पैसा डालने का उधर मन नहीं कर रहा है, क्योंकि वो कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आ रहा है. अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा कॉन्फिडेंस पावर को रीड करके आया, तो मतलब उधर पैसा लगा, एंड दैट इज डूइंग गुड आल्सो, एंड यू फील गुड अबाउट इट. एंड आई मीन, as a person, what I feel is, it is not about making money. It is also about you should get a good interest out of that. So like power sector is really getting interested, and अब मेरे को अच्छा लगता है कि अच्छा, ये देश में इतना इतना कुछ कुछ काम हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ये सेक्टर है, उधर से पावर ग्रिड ने ये किया, या फिर टीएनडी ये काम कर रहा है, या फिर ये सोलर वाले ये कर रहे हैं, ये बात तो मतलब सब कुछ अभी सोलर से रिलेटेड हो गया. तो अभी ऐसा लग रहा है कि मेरा पोर्टफोलियो एक ही जगह जाके पूरा फोकस हो गया है. तो अगर मुझे उससे आगे जाना है, जाना भी चाहिए, नहीं भी जाना चाहिए, या एक ही एरिया में फोकस करना चाहिए, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है. थैंक यू.
जितेन सर. हाँ यार देखो, आई थिंक वन शुड नॉट रश इनटू एनीथिंग, एंड वन शुड नॉट बी कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड आल्सो इनटू एनीथिंग. जैसे आपके केस में, जैसे आपको अभी ऐसा लगता है कि पावर समझा है, तो ठीक है, आप करो उसमें कुछ इन्वेस्ट, लेकिन हाईली कॉन्सेंट्रेट होना तो रिस्की है कोई भी सेक्टर में. तो धीरे धीरे अपना सर्कल ऑफ कॉम्पिटेंस बढ़ाना है. फार्मा थोड़ा टफ सेक्टर है, आई एग्री. आई मीन, मैं भी आज बोल सकता हूँ कि मुझे मतलब फार्मा में ठीक ठाक है नॉलेज, बट स्टिल जो जिनका बैकग्राउंड है फार्मा में, या मतलब कई लोग हैं जिनका बहुत अच्छा पकड़ है फार्मा में मेरे से, तो वो होने वाला है. वो टफ सेक्टर है. उसके रीजंस भी है, बहुत सारे मूविंग पार्ट्स है, एफडीए एंड सॉरी, ये अपना रेगुलेटरी एक्शन है, यूएस का सिचुएशन है, जेनरिक्स का है, काफी कुछ उसमें चेंजेस होता है. ड्रग का व्हाट इज द टाइम फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर ड्रग, फॉर अ न्यू मॉलिक्यूल, कितना कंपटीशन उसमें आ जाएगा, जिसकी वजह से मतलब तो ये बहुत सारे मूविंग पार्ट्स है उनमें. So that's why, like for example, just since you talked about pharma, I focus myself more on domestic pharma. तो कंपनी जो डोमेस्टिकली कर रही है, तो वो थोड़ा ज्यादा प्रेडिक्टेबल होता है. या फिर आप एपीआई में कर लो, आई मीन समथिंग लाइक दैट, वेयर यू कैन हैव मोर प्रेडिक्शन. सो आप वो है, बट आईटी है तो आप आईटी में करो, तो आप आईटी प्रोडक्ट्स भी देख लो थोड़ा, एंड सो ऑन. तो एक एक सेक्टर, आई थिंक प्रिंस इतना अच्छा काम करते हैं, ही कीप्स सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक टॉक्स एंड ऑल दैट. तो वो एक स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट हो सकता है. एंड ओवर अ पीरियड आई थिंक यू विल कीप ऑन लर्निंग दिस थिंग. ऑल आई से टू ऑल इन्वेस्टर्स इज कि आप थोड़ा डाइवर्सिफाइड रहो. एक सेक्टर में रिस्क, एक सेक्टर में ज्यादा बहुत हैवी होना बहुत रिस्की होता है. अभी मेरे केस में मैं बताता हूँ, मेरा कैपिटल गुड्स इतना हैवी हो गया था, तो आई हैव बीन बुकिंग प्रॉफिट्स. मेरे प्रॉफिट्स बुक करने के बाद भी और ऊपर जा रहे हैं, बट दैट इज फाइन. आई मीन फॉर माय साइज ऑफ पोर्टफोलियो आई कांट हैव 50% और 60% इन कैपिटल गुड्स. जो मेरा हो जाता अगर मैं प्रॉफिट्स बुक नहीं करता, तो इतना वो ग्रो हो गया सेक्टर और स्टॉक्स परफॉर्म. So, but then you have no regrets. You can cap. For me, I have kept a cap of 25% in sectors. At exceptional times, I might let it run to 35% or something. But वो 35 हो गया, तो I will bring it down to 25 again. Then wait. और ये दो कैपिटल गुड्स में मेरे साथ हुआ भी है कि ये सिचुएशन हुआ है. मुझे 2-3 बार ट्रिम करने के बाद भी 25% रह गया अभी भी. तो बट दैट इज आई मीन हाइंडसाइट में हम बोल सकते हैं कि यार रखा होता तो और बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता था, लेकिन वो रिस्क कोई समझता नहीं है. रिस्क समझना बहुत जरूरी है. ऑल योर रिटर्न शुड ऑलवेज बी बेस्ड ऑन और रिस्क एडजस्टेड रिटर्न्स is something which I'm more comfortable with. So I would always say that, at least diversify into at least 4 or 5 sectors.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Jiten sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next in line is Raj and then Dharmaraj. Yeah.
Thank you, Prince. Hope everyone's well. I have a couple of questions for Jiten sir and Ravikant ji. So, if you guys are keeping up with, we have a new sector sort of emerging in real estate, with co-working, and we have an IPO which is, coming up very soon, and we also have a few listed peers. What are your guys' thoughts on this sector? Because, if you think of it, uh, it's sort of a way to play the startup ecosystem, isn't it? Because if India does well, startups will boom. And what do you think about this space? And another part where, there is talk of interest rates going down. Um, do you see housing finance companies doing well also? Thank you.
Jiten sir.
So I'll take the second one first. Housing finance companies, I think, will do well. Obviously, if real estate does well, these companies should do well. Uh, they will always have their cycles, so you need to play those cycles. Uh, I think people have realized now that banking also will have cycles and all that. It was supposed to be, it was always a part of, like 35% kind of weightage in Nifty, always, even in bad cycles and all that. Now, uh, people like me had zero exposure to financials during the down cycle. So one needs to understand cycles and not look at index weights and play the cycles if you can understand that. And that is what has saved me from a lot of underperformance and all that also. So housing finance, I think, it's quite decent sector to be invested in right now. And again, I think the cycle should last for some time. And the first one was co-working. Again, very exciting space. One of my friends is actually a startup in that. So I keep on hearing things and getting some insights into that business. Looks exciting. And it's not an easy space also, because in India, uh, you know, you rent and the owner thinks that I can also do the same thing. He will not renew the lease, and all those kind of things do happen. So, thoda compared to, in the Western world, it will be a bit difficult to manage here, but definitely there is a lot of scope and there is a need also. So that sector looks interesting. Again, I have not been able to zero in on anything. Uh, if you have anything uh, to be looked at, I'll be more than happy to uh, get your views and send me a DM. If anything looks interesting to you, I would like to study it. But that sector looks exciting.
Ravi and Sandeep, anything you guys have to add to Raj's question? Right? So you can unmute and ask your question.
या थैंक्स फ्रेंड्स. सो मैं पॉइंट एड करना चाहूँगा, लाइक जो हमने पहले डिस्कस किया था, अमित सर ने जो किया था कि टायर रिसाइकलिंग इंडस्ट्रीज का, राइट, तो उसका काफ़ी स्कोप है. रिसेंटली लाइक एक स्टार्टअप है रिग्रिप, दे राइज $2 million इन फंडिंग, राइट, और वो सुनील शेट्टी द्वारा बैक भी है. सो एंड आई एम ऑल्सो एसोसिएट विद द रिग्रिप, लाइक आई एम CTO देयर, टेक में देख रहा हूँ. तो एज आई सी द स्कोप, राइट, एंड द फ्यूचर एंड द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज, तो रिसाइकलिंग में भी अभी काफ़ी कुछ है. थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, लाइक एज वी नो, बट फ्यूचर है इसका. रीजन की काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें आ रही है, रिसाइकिल तो होनी है. इवन राइट नाउ, लाइक द कंडीशन इज लाइक वी हैव टू इम्पोर्ट, एज अमित सर सेड, राइट. सो एक अच्छा प्लेयर आना चाहिए, अभी लिस्टेड होना चाहिए. अगर वो होता है तो वी शुड लुक इनटू दैट. या
Thanks, Tarunraj. So, Jiten sir and other speakers, recently, I'm not sure the authenticity of the news, but there is a news like source says China will invade Taiwan in early June. So, if we assume an iota of it is true, what could be the potential repercussions on the market we can see in those scenarios? Because although there were certain other wars ongoing, be it the Ukraine or Israel thing, but this Taiwan thing can it escalate into something bigger worldwide, or these kind of news keep on coming and nothing to worry on that level?
Yeah, I keep an eye, but I don't react on these unless things happen. Because this keeps on happening. These news keeps on coming. We've seen, Russia, Ukraine. We've seen Israel and all that. So ये सब geopolitics होते रहता है. I think जब कोई बड़ा इवेंट हो जाएगा तो करेक्ट होगा, बट उसको प्रेडिक्ट करने के इस चक्कर में हम लोग बाहर बैठ के अगर 2 साल गवा लेंगे तो वो भी आई थिंक इज नॉट एटलीस्ट नॉट राइट फॉर मी. सो आई वुड जस्ट रिएक्ट आफ्टर द इवेंट इज डन, बिकॉज ये यार शेर आया वाला सिचुएशन है. जब आएगा तभी देखेंगे इज व्हाट आई थिंक.
प्रिंस मैं इसमें ऐड करना चाहूंगा, लाइक nothing will happen. Reason is like Taiwan is like their security is backed by US, right? So it's directly US versus China if something happened, right? So ऐसा कुछ होगा नहीं, like.
Right.
यार जो चीज कंट्रोल कर सकते हो उस पर दिमाग लगाना चाहिए. थिंग्स यू कांट कंट्रोल उसका कोई मीनिंग नहीं है. अब जब इन्वेट हो गया तो हो जाएगा. यू कांट. अब अभी आपके सोचने से कुछ नहीं होगा या आपके फियर में भी कुछ नहीं होगा. वो जब होना है तो होगा, नहीं होना है तो नहीं होगा. बेटर वी कंट्रोल आवर रिस्क. जो अनसीन रिस्क है उस पर तो सोच बनाना बेकार है.
Yeah, Ravi.
So, Prince Bhai, I would like to quote a line of Shakespeare ka, things which do not have a remedy, they shouldn't be dealt with any regard. So, चाइना क्या करेगा नहीं करेगा उसमें तो हमारा कुछ है नहीं, हम इलाज कर नहीं सकते, तो उसके बारे में वरी क्यों करना. And if at all, like, if anything happens, so yes, just like any other geopolitical tension, there will be a knee-jerk reaction where market will go conservative and things will correct that a bit. But then, अगर second order thinking देखा आपने अगर, तो even after, in post-COVID world, China is a major player in global supply chains. And whenever a country goes on to, such big scale operation, because Taiwan ka, security is directly backed by a US act. So any attack on Taiwan is de facto attack on US. So like though it's a very grim thing to think about, but that kind of, geopolitical turbulence will benefit India in the longer run.
And Prince, if
I'll also, put some examples. For example, let's say COVID. Okay, if we would have reacted and basically sold everything, set out, then there was a fierce rally and we couldn't enter. We would have missed one of the biggest rallies in the world. Same thing happened with Russia, Ukraine, or as recent as with the Iran situation, Israel and Iran. I post all those events, markets have gone up only. I'm just saying that, you can't basically act on rumors. Whenever this has to happen, it will happen. It's not going to be easy for China to invade Taiwan, that is for sure. And even if there is something, it will be very swift, is what I think. It cannot be a prolonged thing. So that's what I believe. I'm an eternal optimist. So I always think that, we always bounce back. Even during COVID, I had the same philosophy that we will bounce back. And my thinking was very simple, यार. अगर मरना ही है तो डीमैट में शेयर लेके मरूं, बैंक में एफडी रख के क्या मरना है. So एज सिंपल एज दैट. अगर बच गए तो बहुत पैसे बनेंगे, इज व्हाट माय थिंकिंग वाज दैट टाइम. And you know, in fact, COVID gave fantastic opportunities across the sectors, uh, and one has to be, see, investing में आप पॉजिटिव नहीं हो तो आप बड़ा पैसा नहीं बना सकते हो. यू हैव टू बी इटर्नल ऑप्टिमिस्ट एंड पॉजिटिव. यू हैव टू बी रियलिस्ट, मतलब, बट एट द सेम टाइम पॉजिटिविटी होना चाहिए कि यार लॉन्ग टर्म में इक्विटी ऊपर ही जाना है. अगर आपका केयरफुली सिलेक्टेड पोर्टफोलियो है, स्टॉक्स है, सूनर और लेटर दे विल बाउंस बैक. अगर आपको बहुत डर लग रहा है तो आप थोड़ा डोमेस्टिकली फोकस हो जाओ. मतलब देयर आर lot of industries which focus on only on the domestic market. आप उधर इन्वेस्टेड रहो. आई थिंक उसमें क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा अगर आपको लगता है तो. बट आई डोंट वरी टू मच अबाउट इट. बट देन अगर ऐसे कोई ट्रेंड जैसे कि आईटी का था तो वी काइंड ऑफ स्टेड अवे बिकॉज ऑफ यूएस स्लो डाउन एंड ऑल दैट. तो उसमें आपको थोड़ा लंबा ट्रेंड दिख रहा था, इंटरेस्ट रेट गोइंग अप एंड ऑल दैट. उसमें आपको क्लियर था कि भाई आईटी आपको परफॉर्म नहीं करेगा, या बिकॉज इट इज सो हेवीली डिपेंडेंट ऑन द यूएस. तो वैसे कॉल आप ले सकते हो, मतलब जहाँ पे आपके पास व्यू है लंबा, थोड़ा 2 साल का अंडर परफॉर्मेंस का वगैरह, तो आप ले सकते हो. बट अदरवाइज ऑन ऑल दी शॉर्ट टर्म फिनोमिनाज एंड थिंग्स विच आर नॉट इन योर कंट्रोल, उस पे तो मैं तो कभी व्यू नहीं लेता हूँ या ज्यादा उस पे सोचता नहीं हूँ.
Prince,
Right. Yeah,
may I
Sandeep.
add few things here? So, first of all, there are two things which we need to think every time there is a war news. So, there is a quick, I'll say bite I'll add, ki how to even judge on some of these WhatsApp messages which we get. India has become a WhatsApp, Telegram, Twitter kind of a news sourcing market, right? मैं सबसे पहले तुरंत जाकर के ग्लोबल उसमें मार्केट वॉच में देखा. आपसे बात करते करते ही मैंने देखा यूएस मार्केट को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा. सो टू एज्यूम कि इंडिया के कुछ रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को सबसे पहले पता चल गया है कि चाइना अटैक कर रहा है ताइवान को, और यूएस गवर्नमेंट को और यूएस मार्केट्स को कुछ हवा नहीं है. दैट्स अ बिग फनी टेक, राइट? बट लेट्स से अगर वो होता भी है तो देयर आर लिटरली टू सिचुएशंस, राइट? देयर आर रीजंस व्हिच विल बी डायरेक्टली अफेक्टेड बाय दोस वॉर्स. Obviously that's a big humanitarian crisis and that's a big challenge for that, right? So as Jitin sir is saying, if that happens COVID में, मुझे ये कह सकता हूँ कि ये hindsight में दिखा था, even though I didn't do anything purely because we are 100% equity. आपको एडिशनल कैश होता नहीं है मेरे जैसे लोगों के पास, तो हम कुछ कर नहीं सकते. वी आर सिटिंग डक. अब जो है सो है, राइट? ओनली थिंग इज इन हिंडसाइट वी कैन से कि वही सेम बात कि अगर पूरा इंडिया ही मरने वाला था, पूरा वर्ल्ड ही खत्म होने वाला था, तो हाउ डज इट इवन मैटर कि निफ्टी 9000 पे था कि 4000 पे था? वो पैसा लेके जाओगे कहाँ? बट the second order effect of all these wars is European markets are at all time high almost after 15 years purely because of Ukraine Russia war. इंडिया का जो पूरा डिफेंस सेक्टर है वो पूरा का पूरा डायरेक्ट बेनिफिशियरी है. अगर ये गलवान नहीं होता या ये यूक्रेन रसिया वार नहीं होता तो गवर्नमेंट का इतना तगड़ा फोकस नहीं आता. आज एक ब्लाइंड कंसेंसस है कि आपकी जितनी भी कॉस्टिंग होगी आपको डोमेस्टिक सप्लाई क्रिएट करनी ही करनी है, राइट? तो जो लोग मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ते हैं उनको ये भी सबको ही पता होगा, लाइक ए नोन थिंग, कि जो 1929 का जो आज तक का सबसे बड़ा इकोनॉमिक डिप्रेशन बोलता है, जिसको लोग रिजॉल्व नहीं कर पाए, लोग बोलते हैं केनीजियन इकोनॉमिक्स ने रिजॉल्व किया था, हुवल डैम बना था, यहाँ पे भयानक गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग हुई थी, बट उसके बावजूद भी 6-7 साल लगा था. जब वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 की सप्लाई स्टार्ट हुई यूएस से, तब जाके यूएस रिवाइव हुआ. तो एवरी वॉर बेसिकली फोर्सेस एवरी कंट्री टू स्पेंड मोर. And that is, and I'm assuming in this space we are not focusing on the humanitarian part of it purely from markets perspective. This basically means more expenditure, obviously with a lag. So first 5 days 10 days जो भी हो, but sector by sector expenditures बढ़ते हैं, कुछ डायरेक्ट सेक्टर्स में और कुछ इनडायरेक्टली. और इंडिया का एक एडिशनल जो चाइना प्लस है वो वर्ड इतनी बार यूज हो चुका है, इतना मिस यूज हुआ था शुरू में, और अब जाके उसके, क्योंकि वो सप्लाई चेन बैठाने में समय लगता है. तो लास्ट वीक भी हम लोग इस स्पेस में बात कर रहे थे. वी वर टॉकिंग विद वन कैप गुड कंपनी हियर, वन ऑफ द promoter, and he's basically saying all his client big MNCs, everyone, China is like a bad word. You can't even talk about China as a supply chain option. So every MNC is exploring Mexico, this that etc. और इंडिया वो आना भी नहीं चाहते हैं क्योंकि इंडिया उनको एनवाई करता है, etc. उनको लगता है कि there is a lot of talk, less work, ease of doing business is not easy, but उनकी मजबूरी है कि वो इंडिया आएंगे क्योंकि वो वियतनाम, which is proxy China, etc. नहीं जा सकते. So all in all, in mid-term, any such event is actually beneficial. Obviously, we have to analyze event by event, but all that is when US market realizes, right? Right now, it looks like only we are focusing on Taiwan war, and US market is fine. So we can just leave it here for now.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep. So last two speakers, Rahul and Manoj. So Manoj, you go first and then Rahul, and after that we'll take concluding remarks and close for the day. Yeah, Manoj, आप unmute करें
Prince,
और
I'm
अपना
done.
सवाल
Back to you.
पूछें. Yeah, am I audible, guys? I was
Yes,
asking
yes, sir.
Manoj to speak.
जय श्री राम सर.
जी पूछें अपना सवाल. जय श्री राम.
सर जैसे कि अभी सभी चीज हमें इंडिया में ग्रो कर रहा है, जैसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अच्छे से ग्रो कर रहा है और विंड ईपीसी वगैरह अच्छे से ग्रो कर रहा है, तो इसका प्रॉक्सी प्ले हम जैसे क्रेन की जो कंपनीज हैं हम देख रहे हैं जितने भी हैं काफी अच्छे नंबर पोस्ट किए हैं चारों कंपनियों ने, तो प्रॉक्सी प्ले उसको कर सकते हैं. और इस पे इस सेक्टर के रिगार्डिंग अगर प्लीज आप कुछ और ज्यादा बता सके तो अच्छा होगा. संदीप सर में भी अच्छे से बता सकते हैं.
Is the question clear to the speakers? I mean, sorry, I missed some part. So Jiten sir, if you got the gist of the question, and Sandeep, Ravi, anyone of you.
No, yeah, I didn't get the question only. I think I lost something in the translation.
So Manoj, can you quickly come again? Basically, pointed question पूछो so that our speakers will be able to address that better.
हेलो सर, थोड़ा नेटवर्क इशू है आई थिंक. मैं ना थोड़ा शिफ्ट करता हूँ नेटवर्क को, फिर पूछता हूँ.
Mr. Rahul Ramchandani. Hello, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prince, for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to ask two questions, and I'll quickly lay it down one by one. One is that right now, a lot of mid cap, small cap, cyclical sectors have rallied very strongly in the last, 12 to 15 months. So, Jiten ji and, Sandeep ji and others, if you can chime in, which sectors do you think from a cyclical perspective are right now, beaten, and there is a lot of pessimism in those sectors, and you think there could be some value and a contrarian view which could be taken? So if you could just highlight a few sectors which we should study and, which we can focus on. That is question one. Second, I wanted to ask your views on China as a, investment theme. There has been around a 10% rally in the last few months in Chinese markets. Very difficult to say if, it's this country has bottomed or, but at least from a value perspective, I see in a lot of names, there is a lot of value. There is a lot of pessimism right now on China. Overall, wherever we read, it's like China is the, place where no one wants to invest. So I have invested China can rebound. Rahul, I think. Sorry, was I audible? Yeah, continue, please. Yes, you were. So I think the questions are clear to our speakers. So Jiten sir,
Yeah, Rahul, I
Sandeep,
am not sure whether
anyone of you.
Prince. Maybe you can moderate.
हाँ संदीप, मैंने सुना आप जितेन sir and then Sandeep, Ravi can
But
take the
Rahul, yes, you
questions.
were audible.
Jiten sir, over to you.
Yeah, so I think the second one was on China. Again, I will take that first. So, yeah, China, I frankly, I'm not comfortable. So I kind of stay away. यार वो 10% गया तो हमारा भी सभी का पोर्टफोलियो यार 15% बढ़ा है अप्रैल से. तो आई मीन व्हाई टेक द रिस्क ऑफ चाइना, दैट्स द वे आई लुक एट इट. आई एम मोर कंफर्टेबल in the Indian markets where I understand the companies, where I understand the data, and where black box नहीं है मेरे लिए. तो मेरे लिए वो बहुत जरूरी है. मैं वैल्यू अच्छी कर पाता हूँ उनको. आई डू अग्री ऑन अ ब्रॉडर लेवल के वहां पे बहुत वैल्यू है वगैरह, लेकिन यार रिस्क भी उतना है चाइना में. आई एम नॉट कंफर्टेबल. सो दैट इज द वे आई लुक एट इट. Obviously, I mean, that is just for me because I find enough opportunities in India, and I'm more happier staying here. So that is my take on China. Definitely, I'm not saying that China is not investable or that. It's just my perspective that I find enough opportunities in India. So that is the first thing. And that is your answer to the second question from my side. The first one is, about cyclicals and all. So, see, cyclicals, I think in that sense is very much misunderstood. And I think I've done a lot of sessions, and we can say that, almost everything is cyclical. Now you have to understand the different cycles. It's a very, very long talk. I don't know, it's already very late. So, I think what you're talking about is commodities cyclical. There are deep cyclicals and there are shallow cyclicals. So probably you're talking about deep cyclicals, like for example metals. And so in that context, I will answer that. So cyclical sectors have been doing well. You have to play the cycles. I think the sectors to look at right now is, as I said, in the past spaces also, and even today in the start, chemicals is something which I think has been having short-term headwinds. Now that short-term has elongated to 2 years, that's a different story. If you are invested from 2 years, then yes, you will be in a lot of pain. But if you have invested for last 6 months, 1 year, I think you would have got a lot of prices on favorable prices, and I think this sector will bounce back. Long-term story is intact for chemicals in India. So it falls classically into short-term headwinds, long-term tailwinds kind of sector. So that is one sector I like. Sugar, I've already talked about. Sugar is something which I like. I think textiles is one sector which one can start looking at. I think the worst could be over. So these are the three sectors which I look at. As I said, private banks also can be looked at. So just a few sectors from my side which can be looked at.
So Sandeep bhai, not many of us know that you also have a sizable exposure in the main board companies, 65 to 70%. So which all pockets or sectors you find, maybe looking at and or studying, which could be from that perspective, and we can relate that with Rahul's question as well. Some issue, or maybe I'm not audible to him. So Ravikant, quickly, anything you want to add, or maybe Amit ji, or
So,
any
like
follow up?
what Jitin sir said, and specifically the sectors which he pointed out, I think before Jitin sir came, I also pointed out that textile sector, and that is why, I mean, it is always a pleasure to hear him out. And yeah, I mean, one more thing which with regard to that China war question, optimism is very important, because see, when everything is volatile, everything is nearly random, what gives you the inner energy to prevail over randomness or volatility is optimism of a better tomorrow. So if you want to think positive, better think for better tomorrow. Because the moment you allow, pessimism to creep into, or you try to outsmart the curve, that is where things start going haywire. So that's what I wanted to add.
All right, sir. Amit ji, you have anything to add?
So Ravi, just
Sandeep
maybe
is back.
just as a random add on that, I keep on talking with a lot of my credit side of friends, right? And one distinction, see, I'm personally not a big fan of this, that we should always see positive picture. I mean, we expect companies to give balanced picture. We as investors should also see downside risk. But I agree with what you are saying. Equity is essentially a game of optimism because you see upside risk. Your downside risk is capped, which is capital. And obviously, if you're investing in 30 stocks, 20 stocks, max you can lose, assuming a diversified portfolio, 2%, 3% of your portfolio, your capital gets wiped out, right? But upside is 5x, 10x, that kind of a thing. So your upside is unlimited, your downside is capped. On the other hand, in the credit side, your upside is capped because even if company becomes 10x, grows spectacularly, all you will get is your interest back, but your downside is safe, right? So credit by definition is a pessimism ka sauda, or equity by definition is an optimism ka sauda. So that's how I think it. Second thing is equity need not to take a 15-year view. It can take a 3-year upcycle view. Uh, that in today's context is fairly long term. I mean, even Warren Buffett, etc., the people who really hold very long still have a portfolio duration of 2.5 to 3 years, which is very, very high, right? So आपको 2 साल 3 साल से ज्यादा व्यू लेने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, so it will look like a fancy dialogue कि 10 years के बाद भी जो कंपनी बेचेगी मैं उसी में ही डालूंगा, but you will not make money in equity as an asset class. So you're always thinking 2 years, 3 years at max, उसके बाद की तो visibility वैसे ही खत्म हो जाती है. बट क्रेडिट वाला जब वो लोन देता है तो उसको पता है कि 10 years का लोन है, तो उसका फोकस ये है कि जब लोन खत्म होगा तो रिवॉल्व करना पड़ेगा कि पूरा वाइप आउट हो जाएगा, इसमें 2 एनपीए साइकिल भी आ जाएंगे. तो आई गेट दैट पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट दैट कंपेयर टू लेट्स से बॉन्ड इन्वेस्टर और लोन गाय, equity guy should always be optimist, but this optimism should obviously be very cautious kind of an optimism.
Right, Sandeep. So I guess we have taken questions from all the requests we got for today, and it was great to have a learned expert with us, that too with differentiated uh, views and the respect for each other on those views. So it was a great session today. I thank everybody for taking out time, and Buddha Purnima is a good day to understand the nuances of market, and definitely whatever we had discussed, if there were some conversation on any names, so that should be construed that whosoever is speaking about that has bias on those names. So that caveat has to be in place, and obviously this session is recorded, so those who are late, they can definitely listen out at some later point in time. So thank you so much, everyone. Jiten sir, Sandeep Bhai, Ravikant, Amit ji, and others, Nikesh, and even Rajesh ji had joined previously. It's always a pleasure listening to your thoughts. Thank you, Jiten sir.
Thanks, Prince, for such a nice space. Thanks, everyone, for listening us patiently.
Bye. Thanks for hearing me out, and hopefully there is some value add. Thank you, everyone.
Indeed, there is a great value addition on everybody's part, and great set of questions from audience is something which adds perspective to the learning of learned, experienced speakers who try their best to answer the questions best in their capacity. Thank you so much, and guys, if you are liking our work, तो definitely आप लोग हमसे connect कर सकते हैं. And Ravi bhai, thank you so much for taking out time. It was on a short notice. We had a good discussion, and then we were joined by Jiten sir and other brothers like Sandeep, Amit ji, and Rajesh ji, Nikesh. So it was a lovely interaction, and definitely